saying? So I'll let you know when that's going down. We're going to try to hit the brother to be at Black Media or wherever. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not just one person got the answer. You know what I'm saying? It's a universal thing, and so therefore, you need to be in the church at that time. You know what I'm saying? When a person is saying some other thing, they need to be there. So therefore, we can only go by what vessel that we're dealing with. A brother named Brother Juju that I was introduced by. I don't know, he might not like me putting his name on the video. Very spiritual brother by the name of Brother Juju. I was introduced to the sister Apakita. As a matter of fact, you want to do this right now, or you want to wait? I want her to come up. She's going to be dealing with crystallogics. Now, for some of you people that didn't, yeah, well, I want you to go. I want you to come up and and do this thing so they can see you on the tape and all. You come on up now. You radio personality, and I know you know whatever type thing, but you know you ain't got no problem with being heard. But I want you. In fact,
problem being heard is being seen.
Well, you know how it is. You know how it is. How black people, they want to slip out the house and hold 9 yards and stuff like that. And all. But you know how it is. Negroes will put you on the spot in a minute. Now she did a class on crystallogics. So the first thing I said, well, you know, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna hear about crystals. But it blew my mind because she went all the way back into Atlantis and Lemuria and broke this thing down, and the same kind of documents that I was doing and other stuff. It was the same kind of spirit. So one sister that's chosen by the brotherhood. So we want to turn her over and let her introduce this class and get it on video. So and let you know what's going on.
All right, good thanks, brother.
Okay.
Crystallogics is what I call this course, because the course is not brought to you from a New Age perspective. It's brought to you from the scientific perspective of our ancestors who created all of the sciences, mundane and spiritual. So we tapping into that. The reason why I did this course is because brothers like Brother Bobby, brothers like Brother Robert, they all tell us that we need to raise ourselves up. You know, we need to clean ourselves up. We need to get in touch with our God selves. The Creator left us various tools to do those kind of things with. And our ancestors have left us a legacy of those kind of things. The stones are one of the ways, as well as the herbs, right? So what I did, I asked the Creator to give me the structure, the organization that I needed, and the inspiration to put together a course that would be beneficial to African people. Because you cannot go to a New Age workshop and be treated like it's all one of those. You know what I mean? They'll tell Susie more than they'll tell you. All right? So I wanted to create an atmosphere where my people could learn. And they used to tell me in Crystal Blue, why don't you teach a class to your people? They come in here and they ask us questions. Why don't you have a class for your people? So it took me 10, 11 years to do this class for my people, but I've done it. And I'm offering it to the community. I hope everybody will come out, check it out. I've had numerous students in this room here who told me that what I've told them have worked for them. They've learned a lot. One sister's now doing crystal jewelry, you know, and I'm doing it right, Sister Africa, because you taught me, so that makes me real happy. So if you have health problems, and particularly psychic defense, that's what I call it. We're under negative, you know we're under attack, psychically. Yes. I think we all got something to know that right now. We need to be just like everybody. We need to have our insurance on us every time we move. When you go to sleep, when you step out your house, you need to keep your insurance on. What's wrong with that?
Shake.
And you need to know what you need to have. So crystallogics is designed to teach you that. Straight up.
When did you give the date and all that?
Oh, okay. The date is September 25th. And it's a 4-week course on the crystal. I mean, we get deep down into it. It's not like a thing I just come and, you know, mesmerize you with some information. We get into the science of them so that you can intelligently go do your own rituals, pick your own stones. You'll know what it is because you know the vibration of a thing. And you know the science of a thing. That's what it's designed to do. The last 2 weeks, because of the last class I had, people asked me about herbs and candles and oils and incenses and things like that. So the last 2 weeks of the course are dedicated to herbal defense. We're on it. We kind of on the defensive thing because we're under attack. We got to get things straightened out so then we can go on the offensive. And we talk about some offensive things too. You know, but right now we just need to be able to protect ourselves and get ourselves back in order because we're totally out of order. You know? And so, starting September the 25th, it's a 6-week course that runs through October the 30th. Unless you just want to do the crystal part, that's 4 weeks. And the herbal defense classes start on October 16th. But you have to be a graduate of Crystallogist 101 to take the herbal defense classes. It's going to be at 1158 Avon Avenue, which is in the West End. It's the home of Sister Brother Bilal and Fulani Sunni Ali. Big old house, nice, good vibes. So we invite everyone to come out. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now what? Now you want to take a mission in the middle? Okay. Since we didn't charge at the door, we just passed a little hat so y'all can do me a little favor, and so do some things. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to tell you that number one, we got to understand that we are the gods, not the universal prime creator, but you are what you would call a solar product of the great cosmic central sun, which is the soul of God. And we're not talking about this sun, we're talking about the sun behind the sun, which is the soul of God. So you are a solar product of that particular great cosmic central sun. In the Zohar, which is your holy Kabbalah, your holy Kabbalistic writings, it tells you, which is the actual precursor to the Bible, the people that actually fashioned the Bible, they tell you in the Zohar, it says that the beings live below say that God is on high. So that means that you say that God is up there, while the angels in heaven say that God is on earth. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, when they say that you got to start believing in yourselves, you have to start believing in yourself. You really have to start believing in yourself. Now, for the first time ever, I used to bring a whole pile of books. You see what I'm saying? I used to bring a whole pile of books. Basically, I just got papers that's dealing with certain amount of key things and some coming events and all of that. But basically, what I want to do today is I want to drive this home. I want to introduce you to other realms because we already know now, based on the channelings, that Atlanta was once underwater and it once was a part of Atlantis. And this is that actually came in, and then so we got verification on that because I think it was who told me that? Brother Kenny told me that the Europeans in Atlanta that got documentations on this particular stuff on Atlanta. The reason why they named it that is because the older science that they knew about this particular thing that was once up underwater. Now, once up underwater. The reason why it is called a phoenix rising up from the ashes, not only was it talking about because Atlanta was burnt by Sherman, but it was actually talking about a group of people that would rise up from the ashes. And they're talking about black people, because Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that when the black man rises up in the South, it's all over. Now this particular, several writings by Europeans say there's two phoenixes, both in America, because remember now, this is complete West. And California, which is California, which is one of the original names for this particular thing that we got from the goddess Kali, that they named it after, is also the Kundalini of the entire world. Now what it means is the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and California being far west, because when you talk about Hawaii and you're going on into the Orient, they name that all of the east. So that being far west, they said that particular, it is the Kundalini chakra, or the Kundalini to the entire world, but mainly also to the United States, which is the reason why they were saying that this particular earthquakes and all this stuff, and why they have the particular earthquakes, because we understand that the earth has a way to cleanse itself and revive itself, or actually the earth has a way to wake itself up too. Now the Hopis, as well as the Aztec, as well as the Olmec, and as well as all of your native indigenous Western people, which by far were black people that you know, tell you that there was earth has a Kundalini too, and they used to do a ceremony to wake up the earth Kundalini. But for those that don't know what the Kundalini is, that's a spiritual center in you that wakes you and rises you to cosmic consciousness. Well, the earth has a certain Kundalini also, and when it wakes up, the earth revitalizes itself, or what it does is it goes into a new birthday. Now, the point on California, they said that, well, also they said there was two phoenixes in the world, in America. Both of those, one of those phoenixes was the fake phoenix, which is Phoenix, Arizona. The other phoenix was actually Phoenix that rises from the ashes. They was talking about Atlanta, that is named after the phoenix, because you see a big old bird up there. If you go to Martin Luther King Drive, you see a big old woman holding up a bird. This was the other Phoenix that they was actually talking about. Now, as you know, there was only supposed to have been one Nile Valley in the world, which was so-called Hemmitt, or Egypt, mainly Hemmitt. And that was the only river that so-called that ran upstream. But we thought that until now we are located, because the Moors that you have Noble Ali, who also had tapped into some actual science that was given down by the Moors that was here before that, actually said that they bear witness that no, that America had a Nile Valley too. Now, as you know, Hakeem Bey came and misconstrued and said that it was, they said he didn't misconstrue it, he said maybe it's the Mississippi River. Well, since then, we've located the Nile River on the western Nile, and it is St. John's River in Jacksonville, Florida. It is the other river that's the only, there's two rivers that flow upstream, and that second river is in Jacksonville, Florida. As a matter of fact, we understand also, too, that the Europeans there deliberately pollute that river. They say because if black people was to ever even get in that river, it's such a spiritual and high vortex that their kundalini's was rise. Well, this was the challenge that came down. But what had happened was, one of the brothers said, brother, when you go down to Jacksonville, Florida to speak, you're going to rise. So we went down to Jacksonville, Florida. When we got to Jacksonville, Florida, the day before, I think it was that Friday, I said, I got to see this river. So we went down to this river, and the whole 9 yards, we couldn't get into it because it was all filthy. That night in the bed, I felt something burning, my butt just burning up, and the next thing I know, it just shot up. It just shot up. You know, it was the first time I ever did this without meditation, but it just shot up all of a sudden. But the brother told me 2 days before I went, he said, brother, when you go down there, because of that river, it's going to rise in Jacksonville. He said, because I'm from Jacksonville, it's always been spiritual. He said, but the Europeans down there made it a point that they make sure that no consciousness gets there. Even Honorable Elijah Muhammad came there in the 60s and said that this place will never rise, and no consciousness gets there. They said, up until recently, they said until that people would come and give them any kind of information of enlightenment, and those black people were so dead they would curse them out in the mall. Get that shit out my face. So I mean, but since then, I'm telling you, it has been a great awakening. I'm telling you, people, they are on it down there. And I'm talking about they're going straight into the metaphysics, and I don't like to use that word metaphysics because it's such a distorted word, straight into high spirituality where they're trying to raise their vibratory rates. So at that particular time, so we do know that particular Jacksonville, Florida, which, remember now, if you look at Hemmitt, Hemmitt is the entire land of Hemmitt. If you can fit America in Africa 5 times, then the entire land of Hemmitt would reach from probably here to D.C. But if you take it all the way down, it would reach from somewhere in Tennessee all the way to the tip of Florida. And more. We're talking about, because we're talking about, one time this was all one landmass. Now, we do, so when they said that this particular rising of the Phoenix, when they talk about this particular area in the south, because the actual sun in the south is the star system Sirius that rises from the south. Is also, when we talk about the breakdown of the body, they say that the great mother, what you would call the constellation of Draco, her first son rises in her south gate, which is the vagina. So the south is what it was talking about, and this particular river is one that all of this is connected together. There's no such thing as an Atlanta and a Florida. It's all one landmass, remember, and it would be one geographical location that's just greater than Atlanta, Florida, Tennessee. Because we understand that because they have mounds all up and down this eastern coast, and we have gotten some spiritual things with these mounds. Also, we do know that not only that, they got a book out about the mounds just in Florida only. That's not including the mounds in Georgia, Tennessee, and also Alabama, and all these places, you see. So what I want to do today is basically we want to talk on things on the spiritual manifestation more than just actual technical things that I just ran and I got this up and I got that up and I got that up. Okay, the reason why I say that is a great job on the actual scholarship. And so now we want to try to go into what is called a right brain method of thinking other than left brain method of thinking. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that is this. When I went to New York is so condensed with buildings and cement and stone and hardly no nature at all. And I didn't realize until I went to New York for the first time to speak. After the lecture, the people, unlike here, is such a comfortable you know, you satisfied with the question and answer or whatever. You say, well, he got the book list. He said on tape, I'll get the books later or whatever. I know to go to black media or whatever. But I saw these people bum rush the table, and they were so busy trying to get information on this left brain thinking. They was trying to get this information. No, brother, we got to have the information. It's about the scholarship. And then right then I realized, I said, wait a minute, where am I? And then I realized, and it's the only place that I know, because I went to Detroit and it wasn't that way, but Detroit has a river running right straight through it. You see what I'm saying? Right across, and I was at the Peachtree Renaissance, which is right on the river, and you can look across to Canada, and it was a whole spiritual flow. But in New York, it was the spirit, the actual air was so dense, and the people, it was almost to say that I need this scholarship just to break through what is going on up here, because it is completely insane. And so they was looking in all the books, and I said right there, I said, see, this is the problem right here. All of this scholarship, it takes away from what we want to get to the spiritual level. Take, for instance, I think Reverend Robert Calloway can bear witness to this. When I remember when I first started meditating, and I would get the feeling, but I wasn't getting anything that was coming either in visions or either with my thoughts. I wasn't getting as much for the simple fact that I had been so much into the books. You understand what I'm saying? Until when I was meditating, I was not shutting down that intellectual thought. I was not shutting that down and letting the spirit run through. So therefore, it was a little hard at first, because I was so into this particular part until the right brain was not really, I was not letting go. So therefore, if anybody that's going to start meditating, if you haven't already, you know that the first problem you got in meditation is you feel, I've been sitting down here and the only thing I've been doing is thinking about every damn thing I did all day. See, that's the first thing that happened. Everybody think that, and you said that you want to get, and you pray for that time and you get into a trance. You say, I've been trying, but that's all I think about. This is why, because we've been using this particular intellect the whole time. You understand what I'm saying? That rationale and that logic, so therefore it does not transmit. So when they rushed up to the table, I said, oh, I see what's going on now, based on the intellect and all. Now, what I want to deal with here is, I want to deal with an overview of what has happened since November 28th on my birthday. And based on some certain amount of incidents that have gone on since then, and other people in here can bear witness to that, the people that actually journeyed with us to the mounds on certain things. Number one, when I was speaking up at the Nation of Islam, I spoke at the Nation of Islam up in Jackson, Tennessee. And there was a real spiritual sister, spiritual seer. She could leave her body and come and be in my house. She's on the phone with me now. She's 600 miles away. But how many is that? 600 miles away, basically. It's about 5 to 6 hours. And she's on the phone talking to me, but on the same time she's in my room looking at me. You understand? Yeah, you in your underwear. You got on red underwear. You got this thing, and I start holding up books, and she's telling me on the phone now. She's in Jackson, Tennessee. She's telling me on the phone what books I got. You see what I'm saying? She said, yeah, brother, before I saw your tapes, I went to visit you immediately. So I knew you 4 months, where you live, what you used to wear, and all of this, what color your house is, before I even met you. So now we're talking about dealing other than the spiritual realm. You understand what I'm saying? And so she kept telling me, she said, something's going to happen on your birthday. Something is going to happen on your birthday. And she told me that when I was up there lecturing and all of this. And it came to me in the month of November. At the first week, I said, wait, yes, something is going to happen on my birthday. And I said, I believe. And then right then, Sister Joy, who is the ex-wife of Brother Amin Ra, that some of you knew, they put on Revolution 101. She called and she said, I want to invite you on the 28th to the Etowah Mounds. To the Etowah Mounds on your birthday. And we went up there and we did a whole spiritual ceremony. Since then, the vortex on the Etowah Mounds, there's just energy shooting off the top. Now she had gone there about 2 weeks before we went on my birthday. She had gone and they had complained with her and almost literally threw her off the mounds for doing prayer, you know what I'm saying, and doing meditation. You see what I'm saying? So they knew what time it was. You see what I'm saying? Now Not only that, only reason why we was able to get on the mounds this time because it was a beautiful day that Friday. That Saturday, it rained and stormed, and I said, I know it's going to be the same way the next day. But about 12 o'clock that night, it stopped raining, and the skies cleared up, and there was no clouds in the sky. The next day, it was a beautiful day, but the wind was so cold that day, so when we got out to the mounds, I said, well, we got to get on it. I said, so they're going to have to really run us off. It was so cold, and we got off to the mountains. You know, sometimes, you know, when it's cold, you can stand there, but when it's cold and the wind blowing, you the brothers from Chicago know about that. When it's cold and the wind blowing, you know that's when it's really. And so the wind was blowing so cold that day until the white people were like, we ain't even going outside. Let them do what the hell they want to do. And this is how the Spirit led us, and we did our ceremony and did our ceremony and everything. Since then, the vortex that has opened up on that Etowah Mounds, and they know. See, the white man knows what time it is because since then, they got a law that you cannot you cannot meditate, do any rituals, pray, or anything. What's the doctor name from Chattanooga? Dr. Lane from Chattanooga. His daughter opens up a black bookstore. He came up on the April the 23rd when we went down April the 8th, 9th, and 10th when we went down to the Etowah Mounds. He came up, and at that particular time, he just did some prayers, and they almost like to throw him in jail down there. Since then, they have removed the steps from the major mounds because of this vortex, because they know that energy can raise your vibratory rate. They have moved the steps. And the first thing they said, okay, we said, okay, well, that's just a coincidence. It's about, that's just a coincidence whether it's about black or white. This is what the person told Sister Joy when she went down about 2 weeks ago. She went down about 2 weeks ago and found out that she couldn't do anything on it. And they told her, they looked her dead in her face, they said, you see these steps, we took them down and it's all your fault. You see, because she found the vortex, and she found the vortex, I think in October, and we meditated around that vortex, and we did our ceremony around that vortex, and we opened that thing up. And she said, they told her, they said, no, this is all your fault. Now, you know, Dr. White had been going there for years, and he was the one who told her about the place. You see, and if anybody ever been in a meditation and anything with Sister Joy, boy, she really goes into spiritual realms. So that's letting you know that some things that's actually going on. Now, to get down to what is going on since then, we knew that around April, and we got the spiritual channeling because not only that, because the Spirit was able to send me several gifted people, and they correspond identical. And we knew because we got the spiritual channel that we had to go someplace April 8th, 9th, and 10th. And we went to the Pinson Mounds where the Sister Tamakila, the one that used to come visit me. We went to her mounds because she said that, she said, well, I'll tell you what, because we was getting ready to go to Mexico. But they come to find out they had some kind of civil war in Mexico at that time or something. And we was getting ready to go to Mexico. She said, no, come up to the Pinson Mounds. There's 12 mounds there and nobody don't mess with you. So when we got there, we went and we did this large ceremony on Saturday of that month, month. And then that Sunday, a few of us went back. But me and Sister Mentu Ginger, we went the week before, and we found this particular secluded mound that had trees around it. Now, Sister Tamakila had already had a vision of that mound before, with houses on it, and she said all of us was in the house meditating. And that's when her Sister Tamakila's mother saw this tall, dark man in white ruffled clothes. Now I think did he have a white horse the first week? No, he didn't have the white horse. She saw it in the spiritual realm because both her and her mother spiritual seers. She said, I see this tall man. He came up and he was really proud of what we did. And at that particular time, there was another sister that followed Sai Baba, and Sai Baba both appeared to her, and also in Sai Baba is this Christ figure, this yogi master in India, that if some of you don't know. And so she saw Sai Baba, this sister followed Sai Baba, and both her and Sister Tamakila saw Sai Baba, and he came up to the mounds, and he said, I'm pleased with what you're doing. So she saw it in the spiritual realm. So the next week, when we went back and did the mass ritual, some of us stayed that Sunday, and when we got into meditation, we made contact with this entity called, I don't want to say entity, we call it a spiritual ancestor, but he's on the Christ realm, because he's helping us in the brotherhood, and we'll get deep into the brotherhood in a few minutes. He's on the Christ realm, and this particular thunder dog has been helping us. And Thunderdog was a person that was among the natives at that time that rose himself up to the Christ, and I believe that that particular mound was his mound, and the people of that particular Pinson mound was his particular people. But he was a tall black man. Wasn't he black? Was a tall black man?
He was black, but he was just, she said he looked Indian.
He looked Indian, but he was black.
Right,
very dark skin. So that's even darker than some of the Indians that you see that's real dark. And you know the whole Hollywood thing is distorted. So there was a vortex, and we found the vortex on his mound and had a V cut in the ground. So I went and we put the altar around there, and there was a group of and so what it was is they said that they had a group of ancestors that was trapped in the vortex. Because remember now, if you kill a person and you don't give a person a proper burial, that's why the native indigenous, I don't say Native American, but Native indigenous people always said that you got to make that burial. You got to give them that proper burial. So if you kill them, their souls are trapped in a particular vortex or a doorway in time because it didn't have the proper burial to release that soul. So when we got there, they said, no, they said there's some people trapped under the vortex and you got to get them out. And we said, well, we don't know how to get them out, but see, we thinking on the spiritual realm. They said, no, you got to do with your mind and actually visualize yourself pulling them out. And we say the word wado. They gave us the word wado, which means welcome. And we started grabbing them. We got what? One, two. We got two sisters who I know Sister Doris is there and Sister Menchu. Those were the two sisters that can bear witness to what was going on. And we started grabbing them until we freed them all. We freed them. We actually freed these people. And at that time, there was a group of Native Americans, but I don't want to put that word Native Americans, the natives of that point. Our brothers and sisters also, they came around, about 40 or 50 of them in a circle, and they came around, and they were so happy that we had done this particular thing. And this particular Thunderdog came, and it was a brother John Tillman. They opened him up right on the mounds so he could see. And he saw this Thunderdog. Now the thing about it is, this is a lie we had. Anybody can bear witness. This is why I'm saying you've got to start dealing with spiritual. Now all you got to do is to think I'm lying. If any of you can go into any spiritual realms in meditation, and if you have any kind of voice talk to you, then I put this on the test. If I'm lying, then all you got to do is check it with the spirit. You see, this is how we get past all the, whether the intellectual stuff, whether the documentation pans out or not. Because some of the stuff you cannot believe. You understand what I'm saying? So all you got to do is let your spirit know whether we're telling the truth or not. So at this particular time, they was very pleased. And we met up with this Thunderdog, and he had a big white horse. Wasn't on a white horse that time, right? And he gave us a map with some ships on it. Told her brother John Tillman to put the ships in the back of his car, right? And put the ships in the back of the car, and gave me this medallion that they put it on my chest, and it had the wings in the sun. And they put it on me, and as a matter of fact, when they put it on me, they said, now it's on the inside of my body. But I didn't know it. By 2 weeks later, I got this big green spot on the back of my back because of this thing. And this big green spot. So I called Sister Tamakila up to say, well, I got this big green spot on me. She said, oh, I forgot to tell you. Because she could see in the spiritual realm. Now, we had 3 seers, John Tillman, Sister Tarsila, and Sister Tamakila. She said, oh, I forgot to tell you, when they put the thing on your chest, it burned a hole through your chest, and was coming at your back, you know, spiritually. And it was this thing, this symbol of the sun. Now, so what happened was, I said, okay, cool. Then we come to find out that it was actually a badge of protection. Now, they gave him, John Tillman, a map with some ships. Now the next day, I don't know what happened that day, but we didn't go to Florence Jackson. We didn't know, but I think John and them said, that was that, what was that? That was, when was that? That was that Monday. That Monday night, they went to Florence Jackson. And they went into a meditative session, and this mothership came. Now when the mothership came, Brother Baba Abeja was one of the only ones could go on, and your wife, Aset. And the reason why Baba Abeja was one of the only ones that could go on it, because Baba Abeja had trained his body because he's into yoga. So his body was hooked up to the point that it could go up on those realms. So he went on there, and immediately who did he meet? He met Honorable Elijah Muhammad and a group of black people right standing around.
Yeah, the army.
And they,
It was called the Army.
The army, he met a group of people. Now, we would not have any, we would only have Brother Baba Abeja's word, but immediately right after that, 8Sep went on there and saw the same doggone thing. On the ship. Now, on the ship. And since then they said build the altar, and people have been bearing witness because that altar has been actually protecting people and doing a certain amount of work. Now, that is the first leg of the actual thing that went on. Now, we're going to identify this particular hierarchy and everything, but right now, what I want to do is, I want to identify the hierarchy because I want to get deeper into this. Now, even Brother C. Freemanell used to say that there's different spiritual overlords on the higher realms. And even in the book, I think it's called The Cave of the Ancients, they said that there's many paths, one aim. You understand what I'm saying? Many paths, one aim. But this particular hierarchy that we're talking about here is in the pursuit of what they call the Black Rite of Osiris, or the Great White Brotherhood. Great White Brotherhood is not necessarily about white people. It's talking about the crown chakra, the prism, the crown chakra, and this particular brotherhood that exists, and it's called the Order of Melchizedek. Now, you know, in your spiritual, what you would call your spiritual realm, what you call your Hebrew lore, they talk about Melchizedek, and they said Jesus was of the order of Melchizedek. Now, Melchizedek is his Hebrew name. His original name is Awas, A-I-W-A-S-S. Awas, a tall black man in his 30s with the face of an African king. He is the epistomous head of the AA, what they call the Great White Brotherhood, or they call what they talk about that prism, that Great Brotherhood and all. And there's his name is Awas. Now, on October 16th of this year, of 1993, I was in the Sphinx Metaphysical Bookstore. About 2 weeks before that, I was up in Avalon Bookstore, and this particular guy named Larry said, he told me this about that summer. He said, we got a couple of aliens coming up in here. They come up in here. So when it was interesting, so when I happened to be in the store, I rode the bus out to Avalon, and I was reading this particular science on AWAS. Now, I was happened to be in the store, I think it was like the last weekend in September, and he said, we got this particular alien up in here. And so I said, oh man, it was the black guy with a fade. He looked like he was about 21 or 22. And I said, oh man, that ain't no doggone alien. So when I turned around, I you know me, I went through looking at books and stuff, looking at him like this. And when I turned around, I could actually see, because his eye sockets was back in his head a little bit. His skin was very smooth, but it was, you know, he looked just like a brother, because he was a brother. But his eye sockets was back in his head, and it didn't look like somebody that was an alien. It just looked like, just like you could tell that the people from India is different than the people from Africa. Or let's better yet, let's go back to let's go into Africa, because this is a good example, because you know not all Africans look alike. You see, we misconstrued that the prototypical West African is the whole Africoid stock. You know what I'm saying? But you know, you got different types of features in Africa. And as a matter of fact, you can see these particular features around people all over the world. So when I saw him, he did not look like an alien, but he looked like a certain African that I hadn't identified. So if he was on the continent, I said, okay, it does look like some African, but I don't know what tribe. He just looked like an African from another tribe. So what happened was, I said, well, if it's an alien, I'm going to get to the door. So I went and got to the door, because there ain't no back door. I went and got to the door, and I said, I'm going to wait here until this man come out, and I'm going to go and talk to him. I'm going to go talk to him, you know. I started talking to Larry, because he's going to go up front, and before I knew it, he was gone. And he didn't come out the front door, and the guy was gone. Later on, we come to find out, based on spiritual channeling, that it was a brother from Jupiter. A brother from Jupiter. Now, we know also on spiritual channeling that all the planets have people on them, and they are all black people. If you go to Mars, if you go to Jupiter, and this was an actual brother from Jupiter. Now, after I went to New York, to my ex-girlfriend's mother died, and I went to New York. And I was reading a book, and something came to me and said, wait a minute, hold on. You got to start taking responsibility for your godhood. not only egotistical thing, but it's saying it's all about you, as in retrospect to, you can't look for nothing to come outside to save you. You can only save you based on going within. You understand? Look for nobody but yourself to save yourself. So therefore, at that particular time, I said, wait a minute. I said, well, I got to start taking a certain amount of responsibility and start bearing witness, because even with the intellect, I started going to a point whereas you really don't believe for the simple fact that you are not going within. That was on a Thursday. That Friday, that Saturday, I came back to Atlanta, and all of a sudden, the sister, my ex-girlfriend, she came over to the house because she drove her mother's car back, and she said, I got some clothes in the cleaners. You want to go to the cleaners with me? I said, cool. And on the way, now I knew wasn't nothing in the Spanx Metaphysical Bookstore because I had bought out all the doggone books. 92, 93, and I had bought out most of the doggone books. So I knew wasn't up in there because I was in there the week before I went to New York. And so I said, this is because I'm not just trying to find out about my psychic powers. Because my people were from part of West Indies, I think the West Indies, her grandmother said, go with it. You know, whereas in fundamentalism religion, they say, you better cut that stuff out as devil worship and all this stuff. But her grandmother said, go with it, because she remembered what she used to do in indigenous, with her people in the West Indies. So she was able to, when she went in, she knew what she was doing. And just then she said, I hardly ever see this, but there's a particular man standing behind you. And I said, well, what does he look like? They said he's a tall man in his 30s with the face of he looked like an African, and he got on some Arab-looking dress. And he got on some Arab-looking dress. And I said, I think I know who it is. Now, that night, that same day, this Empress was in town. Now, see, despite all the history that people are talking about, how do you explain, and I asked John Henry Clark this when I went up to how do you explain through history, since you're talking, how do you explain, and we know black people, if it wasn't one landmass, how in the devil can you get black people over here? In America, so many thousands of years before Jesus, that own America, whereas the either native, so-called, but the nomadic people that you see that they took the land from, so-called, and they killed them, they didn't even have any documents and records to claim their land, and this black woman got all these records because she was of the Washita Nation. And now this has baffled all the doggone Afrocentric scholars because they have neglected almost thousands of years of history with Atlantis and Lemuria, because John Henry Clark, or not him, they just said, well, I don't want to say wrong, they just said that we don't want to speak on that because we don't have enough evidence on that, or we don't have enough scholarship on that. That's because they are only a victim to the European telling them what they can actually do. See, when you say the whole thing about Africa, you still off the doggone mark, because it ain't just about Africa. This was one landmass and it was one people on it. So therefore, how they explain this woman has got all this land and the government and gave her Monroe, Louisiana, which we went down on the 19th to do a ritual called the Phoenix Ritual on the Phoenix Mound on the 19th of this month, where they had some, like I said, some sister from Yogananda came down and some couple people. How do they explain this? You see what I'm saying? So now, this particular time, the same day that I met AWAS, this woman appeared in town, the Empress. And when I'm talking to her, she said, yeah, I met him too. He saved my behind when the government was going to throw me in jail. He was going to throw me in jail because, you know, because they were trying to throw her in jail and lock her down because they knew she owned all this land. She said, and he appeared. I just figured it was a spaceship because he walked right through my wall. The crackers done cut off all her electricity. They was getting ready to indict her on Monday for some stuff. You know, all they got to do is just say you wrong and they indict you and ain't nothing you can do about it. They told you that with Yahweh being Yahweh. Now here go a man, well, like I said, he God, but he's Yahweh being Yahweh, head of the solar system, but he locked up in the white man's jail and can't get out. Yeah, you know. You see what I'm saying? But he God now, you know what I'm saying? So, he comes through and tells her to go and sit to the typewriter and type out this letter. She said, I can't do the typewriter because they done cut off my electricity and the typewriter is an electric typewriter. He said, just go and sit to the typewriter. She goes to the typewriter and start typing. Type this letter, because type what he tells her, or type what he gives her thoughts in his mind. Because we're talking about on another level where you don't have to say these things, because 95% of the time they don't talk to you this way. They talk to you through mental telepathy. There you go. So she goes and she types out this letter. She goes and tells this woman to send this letter to Washington, D.C. The woman looked and said, well, on this envelope, it's typed. How could you do that? Your electricity cut off. She said, just go send the letter. She go and send the letter to Washington, D.C. When she sends the letter to Washington, D.C., the white woman called on the TV set and said, "How's the dog? Everything that we was going to indict you from is on this letter, is an explanation that's explaining what we say you had done. It's explaining, and it is wiping out all of that, so therefore we can't indict you. Now, we can't indict you. Now, the next time I meet up with this particular person, his name is Melchizedek, right before Christmas. But then I can't get no answers. I'm saying things and all, and they're like, we ain't get, brother, it's like this. And they kept saying, listen, they kept saying, you got to believe more in yourself. What it was meaning was also that not only that you are God, but since reincarnation history, you probably one of the gods in antiquity that everybody is looking at. Now, it's not saying that I'm God and you're supposed to follow me. What it is saying is, since we are the original people, and since we know that world mythology is explaining about us, and actually it's explaining the nature of us. You understand what I'm saying? Even when you break down the esoteric Bible, it's only explaining the nature of the transmigration of the soul. So it says, so after that, so I didn't put it all together. So now, to make a long story short, we're in touch with a person by the name of Awas. Now, who is Awas? If you trace Awas back, all the way back, if you go in Egyptian history and you trace it all the way back, Awas is at the beginning of that particular thing. His name is Awas, that's his Sumerian name, which is all documented, worshipped by the Yazidis. His Atlantean name is the god Sut, or Sut-Nessi in Ethiopia, because you know that it came out of that. His Atlantean name is Al-Sut. Al, which means God. Sut, which means black. Sut, which means the black one. Just like Buddha, the black one, his name is Al-Sut. Al-Sut, which is all documented. So now, we trace this thing all the way back. Now, to get into some things that is dealing with this, we meet up with a person by the name of LAM. Now, he might look like a big-head alien because this is a distorted picture which Aleister Crowley did in 1919. I can pass some around. This is a distorted picture, purposely distorted. I'm going to tell you who LAM is. In 1919, Aleister Crowley was in touch on the astral planes with a person named LAM. You can pass some of those back or whatever, and also people can see. Now, if you notice about the big-head aliens that you see all the time, you see big eyes and stuff on them. Well, if you go and deal with the moving fire in the sky, you saw clearly that they had a group of spacesuits with the big head and the big eyes. Remember that? If you saw the moving fire in the sky, the actual things that all the Europeans are actually seeing is a group of spacesuits. Right? Now, this particular big head lamb, if you look real close, he's not unlike the average Ethiopian with the big head. Huh? You know there's only one people on earth that has that, what they call it, the dolichocephalic skull with this particular big head, but this is a distorted image. Number one, but he was sure to do one thing. He didn't put the big eyes. He put regular human eyes on this particular person. You understand what I'm saying? He put regular human eyes on this particular person. His name is LAM. Now, the thing about LAM is this. What other person in history that you know of that had a head like this that you see, I'll make it easy, in Egyptian mythology?
My daughter.
Huh? No, a big head man in Egyptian mythology.
Imhotep.
Imhotep. Check. Go look at the picture of Imhotep, and then you could actually see how this is a distorted image, and it's a lightened up image. Lo and behold, about 2 weeks ago before we went to the mounds, Sister Tamakila, which don't make no mistake about it, she said, yeah, because the man appeared to me last week. Now this was about 3 weeks ago. The lamb, they said this man appeared to me, and he was a tall, big-head black man. I said, like Imhotep? She said, doggone right. Now, let me explain what LAM is. LAM comes straight out of what is called the Necromonicon. Now, these terms are made-up terms that the European had to make up because there was no names for this particular primal force, you see. Now, come to find out, there was a person by the name of H.P. Lovecraft that did a lot of novels. Anybody ever read, anybody familiar with H.P. Lovecraft? He was a person that did a lot of novels. Well, come to find out that what had happened with is this. H.P. Lovecraft was in actuality, his novels was none other than the same kind of science that Tesla was dealing with, where he was getting things from the astral plane or the Akashic records. So when he would write his novels, he would write about the Necromonicon. And he called it the Necromonicon because in the astral realm they said that these are what you call the dead souls. Now what are the dead souls? He said that these dead souls are these primal souls of primal power, chaos power that created the universe and first seeded this planet. Now, first seeded this planet. And they are called the great old ones. Now, they are also called the forgotten ones because they are locked out. They are locked out in alternative zones. They're locked out. They're behind the tree of life. Now, they're talking about in other realms, they're locked out. And what do they mean by this? This means that this is a fallen thing. No, they meant these about this particular people. They say that these particular people that's locked out, they want to manifest down on earth. But the reason why they can't manifest down on earth, because the actual housing product that they manifest in is dead and asleep and is walking around, because the housing product that they manifest in is melanated ones, because they were the original stock of the planet, the few remnants remaining. So they're locked out of this particular alternative zones. Now listen to this. You can check this. There is thousands of materials that the Europeans is dealing with in London, England. All you want to read on the scientific thing that they've been dealing with for the last 90 years on this particular stuff, but they made sure that they didn't get it across the Atlantic, and there's only a few sources that came across the Atlantic. Why? And now, not only that, I was dealing with Larry. I said, well, what's up on, and it's called chaos. Now, I said, well, what's up on that? Why this stuff can't come through? They said, no, we got to get on, we got a guy in Atlanta, we got to get on an airplane and we got to fly to England to buy this stuff. And then we bring the stuff back here, and that's how I sell it in the store. So I said, because I said, what's up? I said, this paper here, there's a newspaper about this thick. And it says $5. No, it says $2. He said, but they had to import it, and now they had to charge 10 because they had to get on a plane to go get the doggone stuff. The government is purposely not bringing this particular material in because they understand it, because that, number one, England is considered the intellectual part of what you would call of Europe. And they understand that this is a non-intellectual society, because what you think of intellect is when you go to college, you're actually being trained for a particular position. You see what I'm saying? So they say this is a non-intellectual society. England has been, because all of your libraries, because they went into they went into the British, went into Hemmitt, and they brought all this stuff out. And then all of a sudden, England is a place where they have been researching this particular stuff for the longest. Now, they got a crackdown and they got an actual ban on this stuff coming into the United States, because they don't want you to get this particular stuff because they're writing about you. You understand what I'm saying? Now, this particular stuff, this particular vessel that they want to manifest in is dead. But they're waking up now, and this particular prime power. Now, let me explain what this prime power is. For entertainment, you didn't understand the science that they was dropping. Alec Baldwin was a renegade white man that was running around Tibet in the 1930s. And he was killing people and all this stuff. But what had happened was, the Tibetan master knew he was going to go back to America. But when he knew he was going to go back to America, he said, he got him and he trained him. He said, either you're going to learn this stuff or you're going to die. We're going to kill you right now. And he trained him how to use levels and forces of his mind to create a new reality. Check? See, the whole thing we're talking about, the mundane doesn't exist. It's only a dream. It's the lowest level of the slowed down vibration, but it doesn't exist. Your condition Doesn't exist. Now, what did they tell us on the mounds yesterday? They said that the white people that you talk about, they don't exist. It's only a bad headache and a bad dream in your mind. You understand? It's just the levels of what you call it, and some of the actual horror you're creating in your own mind. See what I'm saying? You're creating this thing in your own mind. You're projecting this image and it's coming back to you. It's like a bad nightmare. Okay? So no matter how long you fight him, he gonna say, give you the mundane thing. He's even gonna finance the even Afrocentric movement. And gonna tell you, yeah, you was the pharaohs and all this, but as long as you're on the mundane level, you don't get it because you don't understand it doesn't exist. You understand? And you're not talking about something out here, we're talking about something in here, in the doorways, in the archetypes of the collective unconsciousness, in the doorways of your mind. So when you go see the movie, it's about this, he comes back and he starts controlling people because he knows how to manipulate them by his mind. And he got everybody doing what he want to do. Because he was taught by this Tibetan master who was bad. But the key to the whole thing is this here. They were saying, but his adversary said they switched it all around in the movie. So they're going to take one of the original men, which symbolizes the Tibetan. The Tibetan who taught him had another student. Now, Alec Baldwin could never conquer his master, so he just learned what he said. But he was not strong enough to come over his master. But because there was another Tibetan student who represented the original man, he grew up and was able to take his master juice. Because in the movie they had this particular knife, and this knife was a live knife. And this knife would eat you up, and the knife would come and could kill you. And so Alec Baldwin could never take the knife from him. But because this other Tibetan was an original man, symbolized, and even though he was an Asian, that symbolized the original man. You got to understand the science in these. When he grew up, he was able to take the knife away because he had the actual capabilities to take the knife, and he killed the master. So then he comes to America to rule. And now they fighting and doing all this stuff and ruling and throwing down on levels of the mind. One key to the movie was they got this huge empire, and nobody can see it. And the only person could see it was Alec Baldwin. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I don't want to give away the movie, but let you go see the movie. What the heck? Just go see the movie anyway. But how they stopped this particular person who was supposed to have been the villain, who was the original man, how they stopped him after they kind of locked him down, Alec Baldwin knew to take him into surgery, and they took out a part of his brain. But the guy said, oh, don't worry about it. That part of the brain, 98% of the people never get to use in the first place. Check? So it meant that this actual war that was actually going down was all in your mind. You understand? And this is key why the movies are coming out this way now. You see, dropping science on what it is. Remember now, the shadow is one, and also this little Buddha. You got to see this little Buddha, because it's going to teach you a lesson in reincarnation. It's going to teach you a lesson in reincarnation. And in this particular movie, they thought this person was going to reincarnate, and actually the Dalai Lama reincarnated in 3 individuals. He said it's rare, but I've seen it done before. You got to go see the movie. But while they're showing you reincarnation in modern day, they actually show you the story of Buddha. And one of the keys to the story of Buddha was he was almost to his cosmic consciousness. And the ego was trying everything, because now it's all in his mind. How you get to your level is all in your mind. It ain't nobody physical stopping you. It's all how you deal with the lower. So the ego could not, Buddha was so divine that the ego could not get to him on everything horrible that he threw at him. They throw you horrible stuff and you fall under pressure. So the only way he could get to him, he came up to him and he appeared as Buddha. The ego did. He said, yes, Buddha, you're the greatest. You're the best. And Buddha said, not even that can even sway me. Because that was the ego. He said, well, I got one last attempt. And if I can show him himself in a mirror and brag on him, maybe his ego will get the best of him. Buddha said, that game ain't playing either. So that is showing you in the movie how it's your own egos that you got to get on top of. Check? Okay. The movie's a little Buddha. It should be out in Blockbuster within the next couple of weeks because it's been out of the theater about a month now. Maybe about a month now. So if a movie doesn't do good, they usually put them on videos even faster. Okay? Now, one of them persons straight out of the Necromonicon is this person, LAM, which is actually not showing you something, because he never manifests on this realm. It's showing you something on the inside of the archetypes of the collective unconsciousness. Talking about something called the black dot, the Akash, in which the black dot and the Akash, in which the Buddhists call it, is called the black egg, and it's called a Buddha Rupa. Called a Buddha Rupa, or the Buddha Rupa. This is called a black egg. This is what exists within the Akash, or the black dot. And this is why he said he's straight out of the Necromonicon. And so, based on the terms, they say, oh, he is the master of the egg, the black egg. He's the master of the egg. His name is LAM, and he's the master of the egg. Not saying he's the master of the egg. We're just saying because we got to him. We got to him by tapping into the archetypes of the collective unconsciousness. And this is what was on the astral realm, is actually showing you this particular entity, LAM, which is not even talking about it. This is the distorted picture. But they tell you when you go to the holy guardian angel, they call that a dwarf deity. Now it's interesting because in Egyptian or Kemetan science, when you see the netters are not talking about this particular, some spooked out thing. The netters are doorways and keys to your mind, and each netter are what you would call gods, for you people that don't know gods. Each key to your mind, or each god represents a type of archetype in your mind. The Ptah, or the best, which is a dwarf deity, represents the first pygmy of the dwarf, which is supposed to be one of the original people that seeded the planet, although there were other taller races too. But they use this as a symbol of the ancient archetype, what they call the Adam Kadmon. You see, in your Kabbalah. And this dwarf deity, they say that this particular holy guardian angel, this particular dwarf deity that they talk about, they're talking about that primal part of the soul that is called chaos. Now, why do they call it chaos? Because you know every man and every woman is a star. And as you do your graduation, because the first thing I wanted to know as soon as I got into this, and the thing about it is, they get a little mad, but I say, no, you got to realize, I ask these questions over and over with different people to make sure I get the same identical answer, because I'm talking to the people out here. And I just don't want to say, well, that's this one person and her stuff channel might be wrong. I get the same answer. You see what I'm saying? So now, I said, well, did this Master Farad Muhammad exist? They said, yes, he did exist. And he did teach Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I said, where is he now? Well, they said, well, he has completed his level on the earth plane, and he's now a small star. Now, that goes back in what's going to tell you every man and every woman is a star. And you know this particular star, once you raise the Kundalini energy, the actual halo around your head is the same equivalent to a star that's in heaven. Now, we even got the channel, and you can go check this out, because if you go see the movie The Lion King, you know that the movie The Lion King is actually the story of Isis and Osiris. You understand? Osar and Aset. It's the actual story of Isis and Osiris, and also mainly Osiris and Set Typhon and Heru, the actual younger. Go see the movie. But one of the parts of the movie, they drop in metaphysical science, because you know that they're talking about black people, because the first thing the little monkey does when the monkey grabs the baby, the monkey goes outside and grabs the baby, takes the baby, and holds the baby up to the sun and to the stars at night, just like Kunta Kinte. And you know damn well they're not talking about no animals. They're talking about the African science of black people in the movie. That's why the movie was such a big budget, and again, to get European children to go to see this actual movie. And then he goes to the younger one, and he says, listen. He says, you see those stars up there? He said, every one of those stars up there is our souls. They go to high levels and complete all manifestations of what you would call the actual higher levels, and they become this particular star. That's your right. That's why Elijah Muhammad said, don't talk about the stars, we put them there. They bear witness in the same movie about them being, say, those stars, each last one of those stars are actual souls. You see? All in the movie, dropping all kind of science in the actual movie. You see what I'm saying? And it was, but the whole key was, the young one did not know who he was. He said, I don't know who I am. It's almost like being dead. just a child with grown-up children. He said, no, you the king of all of this. You see? You the king of all of this. And one day you will inherit this particular kingdom. You see? But he had the evil brother that was stopping the whole 9 yards and all of this. It's all in the movie. You see, the Lion King, which is the story of 8Sep and Osar. The actual, and also, let's see, the story of, is actually the story of Osiris, Set-Typhon, and the younger one, Heru. All in the movie, you see. It's a good movie to actually go see. And isn't it funny when they want you to see a certain amount of things, they put a certain amount of voices around what should be the king. Now, they put James Earl Jones' voice behind the father line who was the king. See what I'm saying? They put his voice, just like they put his voice behind Darth Vader, which you know at the spear of the tree of life, which is at the base of the skull at the neck, which is called Darth, which is called melanin. They put Darth Vader and put him in black. And Darth is that particular cosmic substance that they call melanin. You see what I'm saying? Which also, Richard King now is bearing witness to this also, that other spear on the tree of life they call a false sephra, which they're saying because it's not on the tree of life, it's something behind the tree of life, just like it's behind you, which they call a medulla oblongata, that particular sephra. And all this is actually in the actual movie. Now, LAM is a person who actually what he does is, LAM is uniting the forces from Andromeda to Sirius and to the Earth also. They're helping Andromeda. Now LAM, because now what happened with LAM, obviously LAM was a person that lived sometime. But now LAM is actually a current. Just like they said, well, AWAS, who is the number, which is equivalent to 418, and 418 is the number of melanin. We know this based on the Kabbalistic breakdown, which we understand that the Crawley's book, Kabbalistic breakdown 777, which is the number of Soot, the black one, which represents melanin, because Soot represents, his real name is Kim, which means the black one. In the book, in his correspondence, he broke down, which Richard King used in his book, it breaks down that the 33rd, or what you would call the 33rd, which is there's 360 or whatever, but they was talking about as far as the correspondence on the Kabbalah. The 33rd, they put Osiris or Osar at the bottom, which is called God of the Perfect Black. And then when they break down the actual substance on him on the second page on correspondence, they said pure carbon. And we know that the actual we know that melanin is a byproduct of carbon. The original thing that make it black is the actual carbon, which is in the same black holes in the ethers of space. You understand? Which is in the same cosmic that's in the church. That's why they say what's up as above, so below. So this particular, so when we talk about this LAM is helping the forces of Andromeda. Now the key behind LAM and Andromeda and this whole 9 yards is that LAM obviously lived before as a vessel in a physical body. But when he went to other levels, you have a choice that you can either stay on the council, on what they call the higher collective council, or you can reincarnate to go back to try to help your particular people. Now we're not talking about the average person that just dies and just because you're gonna come back down here any doggone way. That's, you know, we're talking about people that made it to the Christhood or to the level. Then they can come back down and help the people, or they can, we've got 30 minutes? Cool. Or they can remain to a higher level and they become a current. This particular LAM is an actual current or an energy. AWAS is also a current. He's called a 93 current. So this particular current is a current that is on the level that is raising consciousness. Now remember now, in Smithsonian Magazine, they told you last year that this particular current, they got this particular black substance that is a part of the black hole that they're saying it is coming towards the Earth, and the scientists, and then they came back again this summer and said the same thing. We know now because what happened was this. Well, I'm going ahead of myself, but I'm going to tell you some things that went on this past weekend. That's going down, that's getting ready to go down. Now, LAM is also called the black egg. Now, let me break this thing down to you. The black egg, 418, which is the number of melanin. We know this now based on the Kabbalistic breakdown that 418 is melanin, based on Kabbalah, and also based on the spiritual realm that verifies it. Oh yes, but of course. Now, also that we also with the spiritual channeling, we got Sister Alphakida's husband has made this particular device it's called a device that's the 418, which is based on 418 hertz, right? Not megahertz, right? Hertz. And this particular device, it actually enhances the actual melanin or stirs it up. But the key to this whole thing was, when we got the channel on it, they said, oh yes, it will work. But they said it cannot work without meditation. See what I'm saying? We're talking about something that can help you, but you just can't just put this thing and just try to make your buzz and try to open up. You got to be meditating or whatever. And it has this particular sound of 418 hertz. And you can also, I think I got it with me, but I'm going to have flyers at Black Media, and you can order these particular things because he's going to start producing them also too. You can order these particular things. Now it's talking about that particular 418. Now, they said that 418 is also your Holy Kabbalah. Now also I told you your Holy Kabbalah was not just Hebrew. Your Holy Kabbalah comes straight off the walls in Kemet, because at the temple of Kombo Omo, they have an actual pharaoh holding up the actual Holy Kabbalah. Now you got 10 suffers on the Holy Kabbalah. They said that the original God form of the man on this particular planet used to have 12 DNA strands, but he lost the 12 DNA strand by falling deeper into the third dimension. And the remainder of those 12, the other 10, you see in the Sephra of your Holy Kabbalah. Now, we know that I tell you before that in actuality, when you first was on the planet, you could see into the other world. You could see into the other world. The spiritual world was clear. Clear as this. And the physical world was dim. But as you fell deeper into this particular level and your spiritual center shut down, the spiritual world became dim and invisible after a while, and the physical world became clear. You understand what I'm saying? So what we're trying to do now is tap back into the regions of your mind that can make all this disappear before your eyes. You understand? A bad nightmare. Check? Bad nightmare. You see, the whole thing is like I said before. If you're not trying to become God, you ain't doing nothing. And if you're not trying to change your conditions by changing yourself within, it's all an illusion. You got to understand this thing. It is all an illusion, and the only thing you're doing is making your ego please by saying, I'm trying to feed my ego, so I'm going to get out here and feed some homeless people. Or I'm going to go lobby in Congress and try to make some things better. But then again, we just have a lack of ignorance too, that some of our people actually think they're doing something better. You understand what I'm saying? Because they're trying to change physical conditions, and these particular physical conditions, like I said before, that you are trying to get back to, you trying to be the head of state like you were in Kemet. Well, remember, you fell into Kemet. At one time, you were, what you see as all physical Kemet is what you built up to go into the mystery system to get back what you lost, the cosmic memory and the hookup when you was God. You tried to get that back, so you had to build a mystery system. Remember, at one time, you didn't need that particular science. You understand what I'm saying? You didn't need that particular science because you had it all. You had detailed files. Like the Terminator said, I got detailed files, but you got detailed files. And we ain't talking about no computer chip either. We talking about straight up cosmic consciousness. You understand what I'm saying? So now the key is, which is beyond our comprehension, you see. So this is why, because we're steady tapping into the physical. So we're trying to get back to that point. So we're not just trying to deal with getting our society back so we can run automobiles and so we can be happy based on some physical things and all this type of stuff without an ounce of spirituality, because you are originally a spiritual being. You understand what I'm saying? You were originally a spiritual being. So we're talking about getting back to that. And if you're dealing with anything outside or going within, it's all null and void. It's all mute. It doesn't make a difference. Yes, you can please your ego and you can satisfy yourself, but then again, on the other hand, too, you still will be in this particular condition. Now, also, 418 is also the number of CHTATH. That would be Shafu, Shafa, which means Lilith. Lilith is the form of the great mother that's in Hebrew lore, which is the Adam's first wife. Remember now, she's Adam's first wife, a misunderstood mythology in Hebrew lore where Adam wanted to get on top of her, but she said, no, we equal. It's still not talking about getting on top of her. It's talking about equal. And as a result, she ends up being scorned and ends up being vilified, and to the point whereas she's this evil person equivalent to the devil at that particular time.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They're talking about the psychic, or they're talking about the spiritual God powers of the woman that based on a political move, not only starting with the Hebrews, but actually starting in ancient Hemmitt, that they tried to cover up and they made all that evil. You understand what I'm saying? You see. So this particular science on Lilith, there's some books up at Black Media that we have on also Lilith also too. Now, Hemmitt is, well, let's deal with this. 418 means the cosmic egg called the Buddha Rupa. You can look this up all in your secret doctrines, as well as there's different other books in your Buddhist teaching. The Buddha Rupa, which is called the black egg. This egg is the egg of LAM. It's called the great old one. It's the egg of the great old one, or the great old ones, the ones that primal force that first seeded the planet. You see what I'm saying? That particular egg is 418, this particular one, which you call Kimware, which you call melanin, but you remember now what we're dealing with is we're talking about another level of this particular spirituality. The science in what you would call Chaldean, in Chaldea, that egg was also called Hadit, which is also talking about the black dot, or the Hadit point. In Egypt, it was called Atan, which meant God. Hadit meant Chaldean for God, which is the Hadit point that they talked about, all verified in this particular science of this particular cosmic substance called Hadit, the Hadit point. The Hadit point is also the essence of the seed of extraterrestrial intelligence within us, within Newt, which is the triple blackness of space in this particular part that is talking about this Hadit point that's in you, and also we talk about Newt that is transmitting this particular cosmic substance through Earth that you hear now in your newspapers about us going back into a black hole. Check? All right, now, it says that, I got about 15 minutes, right? Osar, the Christ, is talking about this particular black substance, is also talking about this actual double white house also, which is the actual house. Now, the house is also called Shechem. Shechem means the house. Also breaking down in the Kabbalistic teachings, and also this Shechem means house. But Shechem, you have the word Shechem, because it's also broken down and divided in Kabbalah. Shechem. That Kim means black. A Kim means black. It means the black house. The Shechem, the black house. Even in the book of Coming Forth by Day, they say that Heru rises up out of the Shechem. Now Heru is also talking about a phoenix, and it's talking about the cosmic transmigration of the soul. And what you got when you talk about Heru and Set Typhon fighting, Set of Sut is called the black one. You're not talking about an actual adversary that's actually dealing with a fight that's actually going on this particular realm. You're actually talking about the levels of the soul battling for supremacy. The blackness is the cosmic black dot, which is called the Amenta, which is called the black dot, which is also called hell. It's in the deeper regions of the subconscious of your mind. And when you tap into that through the cosmic energy and through the uplifting of the chakras and the raising of the kundalini through meditation and the whole 9 yards of the science or whatever you want, then out of that particular part comes light. That Amenta, the black dot, which is talking about that particular part, that deepest regions in your mind that they talk about, comes light. In that particular light, you have what is called the Christ level, or the crown chakra, that's also dealing with at that particular time. Okay, now, the Hyksos, which we all thought that the Hyksos was a different, excuse me, let me deal with this. Baal Shem, Baal Herum, or Shem also means Melchizedek. Now, Baal Shem, it means, it equals Heru Awas, the double one. They're talking about two double spirits. The inside spirit, which is called Harpocrates, the baby of the egg, the black dot. The outside spirit, which is called Raheru Kahuti, which is talking about the Christ level of the phoenix rising, of the soul rising into the divine prism of the crown chakra. Melchizedek is also a form of that particular Baal Shem, or Baal Heru, which Melchizedek is. Remember, Jesus in the Bible was of the order of Melchizedek, king of Salem, which has never manifested on this planet before, and which was not talking about an actual king, it's talking about going to a cosmic level. Remember, many schools, different ways to do things. The Hyksos that you thought was a group of people that actually came into Kemet and took over Egypt from the outside, in actuality, we do know now, based on common sense and based on a certain amount of things, because we understand that their actual mythology and their whole way of life was fundamentally Kemite. We know that the Hyksos that they was called Hex. Also, it was called Hyksos or Hex, or Hex, which also comes from the god Cat, the black god called Harpocrates. And Harpocrates is called the baby of the egg, the Buddha Rupa. Now, the Buddha Rupa, or the baby of the egg, you know this is when you see in Egyptian mythology, if any of you ever saw a picture of Heru with his thumb in his mouth. And when he's a little boy and he got one little lock of hair, they call it Heru or the Horus lock. That black lock of hair is also talking about what comes through the ear, which is the neurocerealis, or what they call it, nuclear cerealis, or whatever. Richard King can deal with that. That particular part is also, the ear is also dealing with the actual, the medulla oblongata chakra. It's another name they call it in Buddhism. And that particular black lock of hair symbolizes melanin. In the Buddha Rupa, it's called the Buddha Rupa or the black egg. It symbolizes the black egg. Harpocrates is called the baby of the leg of the egg. He has the thumb in his mouth, symbolizing silence. Now, it's funny because Blavatsky wrote a book called The Voice of Silence. Later on, what's his name wrote a book, Alistair Crowley wrote a book called The Vision of the Voice, of the 30 acres of blackness in the melanin, which is what it's dealing with. And on his particular part in here, when he did a scientific survey of Blavatsky's Voice of Silence, he came up, he thought to put this particular picture on the cover of the part that he was dealing with her Voice of Silence, because he was symbolizing the black egg, or the lamb, the lamb, which he said is the god of the egg, symbolizing an archetype of collective unconsciousness. And that particular part was called silence. Silence is talking about what is on the inside, the most inner regions of the actual your mind, which is called Heru in the Amenti. Heru is a band-aid mummy, bandage in the most deepest region of a mentor. He is dead, but he's going to rise up. And once he rises up in the pure spirit, which is Heru. Everybody with me with this stuff? Get the tape and you can go back over this stuff. Heru, we got 5 minutes, and we're going to take for a break, and some of you all might want to get some of this delicious food. This particular lamb symbolizes this particular part. Now, to go on, we want to give you just a few more things on this particular lamb, and we're going to go into some actual things that have gone on, that is there, we bear witness, which is the last leg of what went on when we went on this venture starting in April. Well, starting in actually November, but really starting in April. We went on this particular venture, and this last leg, and we're going to tell you what went on, because last week, and you want to stay to hear this, because last week, we was hearing that there was supposed to be a mothership coming in, and we was waiting for this big-ass physical mothership. And that mothership showed up. It showed up last Sunday. Was that last Sunday? Last Sunday and last Monday night. It showed up, but it was in another physical realm, and they said they had to cloak themselves, which means, the cloaking means they have to go invisible, because they said based on heavy psychic warfare. And that particular mothership showed up last Sunday, and it gave us some healing. Also, they say they have to cloak themselves as 747 jets, because we met a sister Sister Rika down in Florida kept saying, no, them ships. We said, that's a doggone airplane. We laughing and all. But the one that but she's psychic, and she kept saying, no, those are ships. But they come to find out that they cloaked themselves as 747s, and we met up with one of those particular things. So we want to deal with that also too. Now, how many minutes? Well, okay, Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to break now. We're going to come back with some other things, and we're going to go into some serious question and answer. But you all, we're not. You need to stay around for this one because we got some real serious juices getting ready to go down. Because they done signed that crime bill, and you talking about 3 strikes you out, and that was the front page of the crime bill. The crime bill is this thick. And everything by martial law, that's what's in that crime bill. So y'all need to stick around for this here, and we're going to really get to the juice because we are in the wee hours, and you're supposed to be on the frequency. Check? Yeah. What I want to do is I want to finish up this little thing. I want to go into some other things because it's amazing because black people now are making contacts on other levels, in different levels. We got several groups of black people is making contacts under other spiritual masters, which is good. I said there's many roads, one aim. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just like this one thing. There's several people that's making contacts, and they doing real good. I just came from a meeting called the Meeting of the Masters up in his brother Reverend Valentine, and he had a group of people that was dealing with some things. There was a guy that wrote a book called The Mysteries of Melchizedek, and he was there. And he is one that's in contact with Melchizedek. And each person that's there, they bring things on other levels. Take for instance, since his knowledge was rooted in Hebrew lore, he brought the Mysteries of Melchizedek based on the Hebrew, on his research in Hebrew lore. Because we come to find out that some of the channels that come, they come based on your experiences in what school you're in, whether you be in an esoteric school or exoteric school. Take for instance, some people are tapped in, but they're tapped in through the ways of the Christian science. And because that's what they have been trained in, that is the way that they transmit the actual science to them. You see what I'm saying? So when we get together, we start arguing saying mine is better than yours. It's just different. The hierarchy of the universal realm transmit the consciousness through what vessel you are down on this earth. Now we're not talking about totally dead people. We're talking about people that's on the frequency. It's not so much into fundamentalism, but the mythology and the way they understand spirituality. They bring spirituality based on what method of study that they're engaged in. You understand what I'm saying? So if a person understands the method of his study based on Hebrewism, not fundamentalism or exoteric, but based on the Hebrew mythology, or what he would say as Hebrew history, then he would get channels from the hierarchy based on Hebrew history. So therefore it would come in the form of Melchizedek. Or it might come in the form of what he knows as to how he can explain what he's talking about through the Hebrew deities. You see what I'm saying? And this goes in the esoteric school. There's the yogi side. There's the Kemetan side. There is the, we come to find out that the Yoruba priest got a whole other system. And we're not talking about Santeria where you're just dealing with ritual. It's just like Sister Afrikita, the brother that was on there talking. We're not talking about ritualism. We're talking about to the realm of the hierarchy based on Yoruba, which they call Ifa. There's a whole hierarchical system on Ifa that matched that of the Buddhists, matched that of the Sufi. It matched it completely, and it hadn't been lost. There's a whole one in the Yoruba deities know about these particular things and all, and the whole one on the Ifa. There's also one called the White City of Central Sun of Ife. And the White City of the Central Sun is a place on a cosmic realm, but in actuality, it's on the inner realms, the subterranean realms. And the Europeans, based on John Stockwell, my 25 years in the CIA, have been trying to find this particular underground system. But they was thinking it was an underground Masonic system that means it was on top of ground. They just underground that they don't let anybody know. But the reason why they couldn't find it is because it was on the inner planes, the subterranean worlds, the White City of the Central Sun. So there's different methods in tapping into the same cosmic doctrines based on how much based on the ultimate is this. Based on how much you explain this thing in a yogi philosophy, in a UFO-logical thing, it's all going to boil down to one thing, that if you're going to get the juice, you're going to have to go within. It's point blank. That's the key to this whole thing. You see what I'm saying? Now, What has been explained is are they talking about the masses of dead people? No, they're talking about the ones that's on the frequency that's woke, that had the privilege to be woke up within the last 5 or 6 years. Otherwise, they obviously is something that's a difference between you being here or you being interested in things other than the average than somebody else out on the street. So in actuality, they're talking about the actual ones that's being woken up. Now, this is what the hierarchy is dealing with now. You see what I'm saying? Not the everyday fundamentalist and not also the everyday, what you would call dead person. So based on that, there's many schools. And so, many schools, so what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with the science based on Egyptian science and based on not only just study, because not only did the channels that have come down, but I've actually had to deal with big, if it was some wrong stuff, and I know the sisters who gave it, they couldn't possibly know this stuff. I have actually gone to the actual scriptures or the actual meta writings and actually have saw the stuff verbatim on what these people were seeing. And some of the sisters, one sister was her thing was she was well versed in Islamic teachings. So therefore she could not know anything about the Kemetic side, and she admitted to me, I don't know anything about the Kemetic side. But the transmission that came was coming from the Kemetic side, and it was perfect based on what the knowledge and what I have been into, it was almost perfect. Then you know we're dealing on another realm. Other stuff about this LAM. It's interesting that Brother Robert Calloway came up and said that one of the mantras that Yogananda has is called LAM is an actual mantra to open the third eye, or just a mantra,
Just a mantra that you use when you're focusing on
the third eye. Well, it's amazing because some of the history of LAM is also deals with what is called the Drupka tribe. The Drupka tribe, or the Drupka, which would be in Tibet. Now, there's a mythology on there, but there is an actual manifestation of the Drupka that you know of. It's called the Dalai Lama. And one of the gods of the Dalai Lama is LAM. You see what I'm saying? If this is a distorted picture, we're talking about this is just a mass of LAM. Which means we're just talking about an icon that took a particular shape in 1919. But we're talking about something far beyond that, because it's a current. So we're talking about a realm of consciousness that can actually put on this mass. So one of the actual gods of the Dalai Lama is LAM. And the mythology based on this particular UFO mythology is that this particular spaceship that crashed thousands of years ago in the Tibetan Himalayas, and the people have been there ever since. This spaceship that actually came from Sirius. There's a book out documented that never came across the ocean that is dealing with this particular, the same documents of the Dalai Lama is dealing with this science, and the name of the book is called Sun Gods in Exile. I haven't been able to get a copy of it because it was printed, and it was printed by Neville Spellman in England in 1980. Sun Gods in Exile. And they're talking about the Himalaya and the whole Dalai Lama system, which if you go see the movie Little Buddha, they're dealing with the Dalai Lama. Now, in this book, Sun Gods in Exile is talking about this particular shipwreck. And it's talking about these people from Sirius that's actually been up there ever since. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be no doggone shipwreck, but it's actually talking about some science that's dealing from the Tibetans. Now, also, so that's one. Another key about this LAM that we got the transmission on, that LAM is a code word for a whole race of people. Mainly a subterranean race of people that are tall people with big heads. You see, now we got short people. This is the tall people with big heads. And as you know, now all of a sudden, they had the people who are down at the Capitol, and they had the people that's coming on TV now talking about people coming from the subterranean world. And also they're passing out these particular things down at the Capitol called Ishtar command. Now Ishtar is not a system at all. It is a made-up word. Ishtar command, no, excuse me, Ashtar. Ishtar is a Sumerian goddess. Excuse me. Ashtar command is a made-up, it's basically what you would call New Age material. It's trying to say that these white people want to be ascended. They want mass ascension for every white person on the planet. Hell, they ain't even learned how to live on the planet. with us, the original people and all the people all over the world, they done killed the whales, they done killed everything. They ain't gonna try to get off the planet and go someplace else. So this, but there was a European that said that this was a straight up lie because the Andromedans, who are black people who was working with LAM, told them this was a lie. But anyway, there is truth in this. And the same document, the same stuff that they was bearing witness on TV about the people coming from the subterranean world, there's also talking about that in here also. But it's interesting that this particular person that put out this particular picture, on the end of his document, look what he has a picture of. LAM. Now they're passing this out at the actual state capitol. But they got this Sananda, Ishtar Command, Sananda, and Commander Hatton. But you read the Commander Hatton and stuff, and all the stuff they're talking about, you can go get Bill Cooper's book. Same stuff. You see what I'm saying? All of this particular thing that they're talking about in this particular book, and it's just straight up what you would call New Age garbage. But they drop a lot of truth in there also too, and they was passing this particular stuff out. So they got all this Sananda, they got the Mark Age group, and all these people. But isn't it funny that you can't find none of these people in the ancient science? You can trace the yogis. You can trace the Dalai Lama, you can trace the Egyptians, you can trace all of the ancient mystery systems, and you can trace all of the Sufi orders, but all of a sudden this new stuff is popping up. You see what I'm saying? And it ain't got no point in origin. You see what I'm saying? You can trace all of them you can trace no point in origin. You can trace them from one point in origin. You see what I'm saying? Back to Lemuria, Mu, and Atlantis, and dealing with the star system Sirius also too. You can trace them all back, but all of a sudden, it's some spooked out place, no destination. You see what I'm saying? And all these new planets and stuff. So they go and pick a planet called Lyra and say that all white people came from Lyra. Now we channeled on this and the Brotherhood started laughing. And they kept on laughing and kept on laughing. Now, they kept on laughing, but it's interesting. And here's another thing too, because this is the dark matter. They're talking about this particular dark matter that's also that the scientists are still talking about. Now, it's funny, because they kept on laughing and laughing, but it's funny, because there's a new book out that Brother Hemmitt brought, and this particular new book that he brought is called The Coming of the Pleiadians. They got some of the black media. Now, all of a sudden, they're saying that Lyra, first they're saying that white people were from Lyra, and they were the first people to seed the planet. But they do bear witness. They said that. But they do bear witness. They say that Sirius is known to be where the black-skinned race have originated from. Well, it's interesting because this was another UFO thing. They said the insectoid powers, and this is white people. So I don't have to sit up and tell you no racist stuff. This is white people. This is one of the top. The book you need to get. They'll have some more of the black media soon. They're sold out. It's called Extraterrestrial, Friends and Folk. We try to go through these books and try to get the ones that really are telling the truth. This particular person was not only a person that was honest enough. A lot of these people are big-time racists, and they're only writing for all kind of political reasons and money reasons. But this person was honest enough that he even came down. It's a white boy now. He even came down and spoke at a UFO conference, I think last week, a week before last, in Chicago, with a sister that is in the Nation of Islam. Make no bones about it, she's in the Nation of Islam. And this particular person, I think his name is, what's the name of the book? Extraterrestrial. I think I have it in here. Extraterrestrial, Friends and Foes, George C. Andrews. And he came down and he spoke. Said, yeah, I got a lot of stuff to tell you black people. That's why I want to speak. And we can see why, because in his book, in captions, he has this, the insectoid powers fears the black races and have kept them subjugated and confused, for they hold the key to knowledge. Their genetic clan information is needed to unlock the advanced secrets of Sirius data. The segmented data unite also is carried in the Indian clans. They're talking about the black Indians from India. And some who are originally from the fourth planet of the Sirius star system. Now we know that Awas is the head of the Sirius star system. His Hebrew name is also Melchizedek. Jesus was of the order of Melchizedek also. One of a good book that we're going to have at Black Media, one of the best books on this thing where you get more stuff on Melchizedek and dealing with this particular stuff is a book called the Book of Life, The Keys of Enoch, a big white book for $40. Real good book, but he also changed things around because they get these channelers and then they change things around when they hear things that does not fit them and fit their political agenda. So So also it's a part of that particular subterranean world we're also talking about here also too. Now, they say that the Necromonicon is dead. It's the dead soul. What they mean is this here. To suffer death is the supreme. You see, the whole deal is most people die once they get to a certain level. If they're not gods to the point where they choose to come back, they don't really want to come back here. But they have to come back anyway. So to suffer death is the supreme, which is talking about it is the supreme. This is also coming in your Sophie, in your the book called Sophie, the Black Goddess, and when you talk about your the Pista Sophia, it is dealing with the Gnostic scriptures, where they talk about this primal death, this particular primal death, where they talk about to become dead. Now, the problem is what you want to do is to try to become dead while you're still alive, which means dying and going to a higher level. You see, so this particular death is supreme. We're going to get into that in a few minutes and what they're also talking about. So now, that's why they say this Necromonicon is the dead soul. They mean because it was a forgotten primal force that is so old. It is so old until we only have fragments. We only have fragments of it. But then again, on the other hand, like I said, the people in Europe have uncovered tons of this particular stuff that's going on also too. Now, I want to read you some stuff because now we get ready to go into some things that transpired on the mounds that we was there when we was there. Number one, we went back to the mounds. What had happened was this, and people can bear witness. Sister Brother said it, one Ollie, Doris, a couple of other people in here can bear witness. Went on April 8th, 9th, and 10th to the Pinson Mounds. The next move, and what it was, since there's no mystery system, there was ways of initiations. Now, the next move was to go to both the Phoenix Mounds and go back to the Pinson Mounds. Pinson Mounds where we met up with the cosmic entity Thunderdog. Now, we went to the Phoenix Mounds, which is in Monroe, Louisiana, on the day that the Empress crowned her, and they gave her back this land. They gave her Monroe, Louisiana, and she crowned this thing that day. And went to the graveyard of the Empress before that. And there's a whole story on how they kept all this history and stuff. Anyway, we went to this mound that was shaped like a phoenix. And there's also a snake mound that's someplace in Louisiana. But anyway, these particular mounds, the phoenix and the snake is also a part of, the snake represents the Kundalini, and the phoenix represents the cosmic energy or the Christ energy rising up from the Kundalini, which was the dove in Hebrew. You know, in Hebrew, the dove, the peacock is one also too. When you talk about the different feathers, this is talking about a prism, which you get also in that Christ light. You see what I'm saying? Which is nothing but it is the manifestation of the triple blackness that which all color comes from when that prism goes on. So we went to this Phoenix Mound. That was one initiation. Then all of a sudden we started slacking off. And Sister Tamakila, the spirit would come to her every night, telling them, you got to get them back on this mound because there was a final initiation we were supposed to go through some water. But we took care of that because on July 23rd of the Heroic Horizon of the Nile, we went to the Nile Valley in actual, Jacksonville, Florida, and that accounted for the water. Now, we went back last week because we supposed to have gone sometime in August, but we went the first weekend in September. So when we went back to this particular mound, all the stuff went down because this was the actual end of the initiation that we were receiving, and so therefore, what came through then is Sister Doris, another pregnant sister by the name of Sister Rika from Jacksonville, Florida, and also Sister Ginger Mentu. All of a sudden, they open up on the mounds and they're channeling the information that's coming through, and this information they're channeling is verbatim. So you know that this cosmic realm, which is sending the actual messages, is not dealing with just one person that might misconstrue the channel. See what I'm saying? It might misconstrue the channel. Well, I said, well, my whole point was I asked the cosmic thing, well, why didn't you give me the channels throughout this? They said, well, that was a part of your initiation. You see, it's somewhat like the Osirian drama, where the male has to deal with a certain amount of female energy, although There's no different in your soul than the female soul. But because I'm in this particular body, I'm playing a certain role in life. So therefore, part of the initiation was to bring me the feminine energy as the spiritual guide at that particular time, and it works out as a form of initiation. You see what I'm saying? Also keeps everything humble also too. You see what I'm saying? So now, the 3 channels and all, so we have it verbatim, just like we had the 2 the second time, and all of these particular people were spiritually brought to me at a certain time. We had 2 the first time to channel the energy on Thunderdog. Now, you might call me a racist, but I ain't gonna tell you no lie. Now, Thunderdog was there that represented the Christ. So God knows he was bearing witness too. So now, these particular souls that were trapped in the vortex on April the 8th, 9th, and 10th was wrong. It was up to Thunderdog to correct them if they were wrong by mere old mortal feelings. But if you thought Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked junk about the white man, you should have heard what Thunderdog and the rest of the people, they was talking about his people. Now that's straight up, and this is all in the spiritual realm. And I'm saying, well, damn now. This is all in the spiritual realm. And they told us we had to reform, but they formed that union. They said because we sold them out with the Buffalo Soldier thing, they said, but don't worry because our people sold them out too. But the people that sold our people out, that was Indian, was selling also Indians out too. But they said also too, we needed to form that union with that vortex between the African souls or the black souls, or the indigenous Western souls. You see, and Thunderdog backed that up also too. Now, the second time, this last time we went, we got a series of events that went on. One of the events that went on was concerning the Haiti thing. Now, if you know, when USA Today yesterday, they get ready to go back, well, Friday, they get ready to go back up into Haiti. Now, the reason why they're going back up into Haiti, now, obviously, you know that this has got to be for spiritual purposes. Because number one, we talk about the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere that doesn't have any types of resources that would warrant America for going back up in there. Well, why don't you take the oil refineries? Or why don't you go up into Nigeria and take the light oil, which is the highest priced oil in the world? Why are you going to mess with Haiti? And it's all boiled down based on the channels and based on common sense. It's all boiling down to they never forgave them for Toussaint Louverture in 1704. What was it? 1794. That's what it was, 1794. They never forgave them. They figured that this particular party, they were going to establish this New World Order government or whatever, that they would also have to deal with Haiti also. Now, they never forgave them for this particular thing, and they said that we had a number of hundreds of thousands of them dying. The French, hundreds of thousands of them died. Despite what they tell you. Then you had what is called the England said, well, shoot, we ain't no France. We the baddest thing on the planet. So they went up in there, hundreds of thousands of them died. So they say they never forgave them, so they say that at this point, they're going back up into Haiti. Now they know that Vodun is a spiritual divination system, and a spiritual system, like I said before, that comes from Atlantis. If you trace it, it goes back into Hemmitt and goes back into Atlantis. And it's supposedly these particular gods that was there, like I said before, they decided once they went down in Atlantis that they didn't want to take on another physical body, some of them. Because they said that not all of them were responsible for bringing Atlantis down. There were priests that was righteous priests. As a matter of fact, we've come to find out, and this is going to really deal with some stuff, and we got documents on it too. Come to find out that they said that Atlantis was taken down probably by one or two priests that probably didn't have to do with the other people because there was just that power. And it was just like one person getting hold of the button and pushing the button in the president's office. You understand? Somewhat like that. Now, these particular priests that was on a Christ level that was actually righteous decided that they would actually want to remain as spirits or currents. Just as Awas decided he wanted to remain as a current and other than taking on another body and being the reincarnation Christ figure that you see coming every 2,000 years or whatever. You know, not talking about the Christ, the Lord Christ. Why they were able to defeat the armies like it was nothing. As a matter of fact, we can say that these particular spirits are all one all over the planet. And we know that these particular spirits was working in Korea when they beat the United States behind, working in World War II with the Japanese, why they had to drop a bomb because they couldn't beat them. It's all right to fight against a people that's non-traditional and non-original, which would be a people that does not have any forms of divination systems that's spiritual. They call on the gods to ward off the evil. But so they didn't fear Hitler. They feared the Japanese because you know their history also goes back to the actual samurai warrior and on back. As a matter of fact, if you notice this too, now this is a key. We find out that the samurai warrior understands that his origin comes from black people. Then when you see the ninja dressed up in black, we understand when they dress up in black, they're trying to indicate what used to be the original system that was there that started those. So they wear all the black to symbolize melanin. The actual ninja symbolize that. We have documents on that the Japanese said. So they wear the black, and not only they wear the black head to toe, and they just see the eyes. So this symbols the whole black body of Osiris. You see what I'm saying? Asar. We know now that the actual Jews, white Jews in New York, the ones that came from Europe and not of the original Hebrews, wear all of the black year-round to symbolize the same thing. You see? Symbolize the same thing. So now we know that they could not defeat them. They couldn't defeat, they haven't won a war since, well, I don't think they won a war since World War I. You see, they haven't really won a war. You see, pulling troops out is not really winning a war in Vietnam. They know they couldn't defeat these people. So now they know with Haiti, and which is a reminder they already got their behinds whipped. They know that they got to go in there, and this is the reason why they've been having problems by going up in there. You understand what I'm saying? Now, this is key too. This is key too, because they also knew that your man in Cuba, what's his name? Castro. Now, you know when Castro first got this thing started, Kennedy and all them thought he was going to be taken out in a couple of months. And as a result, everybody that was dealing with him now, Khrushchev in Russia, all of them are dead now. You understand what I'm saying? And he's still living. You see what I'm saying? That is because also we have spiritual contact that he was using. The Santeria Vodun system in Cuba was a part of that too. So we're not just talking about, we're talking about dealing with the spirit. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, we understand that also too. Now, which is key because we know that they put that doggone spell on the people in October and California burned up. And they said it was the brush fire, but then Malibu burned up with all the rich houses. Now, it is funny because the guy Robert Flowers that's in he's from Jacksonville. He has an aunt that is very spiritually in tune, but she's a fundamentalist holiness. See what I'm saying? But they give her things and she tells what she tells through her holiness vessel, or whatever, her experience. She said that a black man appeared to her last year in Arab dress with a gold sash, tall black man in his 30s, same as this AWAS. We come to find out the guy said that was AWAS, and then we channeled and it was AWAS. Appeared to her last year and told her this, and she said she didn't tell anybody. That they told her that next year the West in America was going to burn up, and they was going to have fires, and he wasn't going to be able to put them out. Now, my friend Robert Flowers is a fireman, and he's a fireman. And come to find out that what they don't tell you on the news, because they don't show you this. What they don't tell you on the news is those fires that started in July, the 1st of July, are still burning. And they have burnt up thousands and thousands of acres. And now they're telling the firemen that they can volunteer and they'll double their pay just so they can come out there and stop fires. It's verbatim to what AWAS told this holy sanctified aunt of Robert Flowers. You see what I'm saying? Holy sanctified aunt, you know, is dealing with those. So these are some things that's dealing in the spirit. Now, what they indicated to us about Haiti was this. I'm not going to give you any time dates because I got 2 transmissions, both in Detroit. Called me up, said, Bobby, the Spirit said that you shouldn't give out dates. Why? But they said because everybody on this planet has to live out a certain karma. When you give the enemy dates, they regroup and they bypass a certain amount of things, and that would have been karma. They could have got to their behinds, but you warned them. See, so don't give out no dates. Transmission came last night. Don't give out no dates. So now, but we just say soon, nigga. You can say soon. But also too, you can say soon. Now what they said so is about Haiti, and you know that they're getting ready to go up in Haiti because it's in USA Today. He's telling you. Now, the sister Tamakila's mother came, and they said, well, something is getting ready to happen soon. I said, well, what is going to happen? They said, you'll see it on TV. I said, what's going to happen on TV? And so, Sister Tamaquila kept getting bombed. Then she saw all these black people running. Sister Tamaquila mama comes to the mounds later and said that she saw the Congressional Black Caucus and a group of these black Uncle Tom leaders in D.C. And they were all arguing with Clinton and the establishment as if to say that Clinton and the establishment betrayed them. You see, the Congressional Black Caucus, along with Aristide, was pushing for the United States to go up in Haiti under this guise of some false democracy. Well, we got democracy, and I wouldn't wish what we got on damn Haiti. I don't give a damn how bad they doing. Even if they step up to this, they're still in falsehood. You see what I'm saying? So now, they was trying to tell them that they needed to go up in Haiti. So now what happened was, she got the actual transmission. She said that they were arguing because, basically, remember now, they couldn't beat the Japanese, because the Japanese had a spiritual system, because you cannot beat historically people that can revert back to their spiritual system, whether you call the yogis in India or any type of people. Yes, you can come in and you can conquer, but all-out war, you understand what I'm saying? And you can conquer based on a certain cycle. You see, India was conquered in different places, Africa. But they're saying now, well, it's funny how they pulled out of Somalia. But they said, this is why they dropped the bomb on Japan. Now the same thing, the reason why these people were arguing, because they were like, doggone Clinton, we just wanted you to come up in here and just put some law and order. Which is, you know, why you gonna even have your enemy to even come up anywhere? Right. Then to kill all your people, and you want them to come as the order that you want to put on other black people who's been an icon, who has defeated the actual French and the actual British, and you want these people to come to the United States of America, much hell as we catch it. So they were saying like, we didn't know you was gonna drop a bomb. So they're arguing, but that's that Uncle Tom thing backfiring on their behind. You understand what I'm saying? Which, if they just read it, it's all on papers in June, the people, the vote on master said, we ain't worried about the United States coming up in it. We're gonna fight them with a spiritual war. They said we putting God up against them. You see, but all of a sudden, you know, they said that they was gonna drop this bomb. So we got this particular transmission. We got a transmission that there's no difference now between the physical and the spiritual realm. It's all been merged into one. The only difference why you don't know it now is because you're still asleep. You see what I'm saying? You're still asleep. But once you wake up and tap in, you can see that particular realm, but we're not talking, we can see that particular realm, we're talking about the earth transforming. We're not talking about how some of the yoga masters can tap in and still see that the earth is still messed up, that they just understand that there's other realms of spirituality, so they can deal with it. But we're talking about when you transform, when you tap in, this earth is actually transformed. You see, this earth is actually transformed. So now these are some things that was also going down also too. Now, to give you some other transmissions that's dealing with the things that I decided I was going to deal with this particular lecture, mainly with transmissions and not so much dealing with other scholarship, just, you know, but basically mainly transmissions on some things that's dealing with those things that went on. Number one, it says that the reason why they shot down the actual plane the other day, because there again, just like happened in June, these planes are not going down with, the planes are doing good, they have no record of engine failures or nothing. All they know is the plane in July, it was up and it was down, just that quick. Now this new thing They don't know what happened. Clear skies, know what's going on, perfect, plain, nothing wrong with it, everything checked out. Well, then the transmission has come that they want to keep your mind off of Haiti and the new crime bill that they just passed last Sunday. And they want to keep your minds off that, so now all of a sudden they're trying to divert you through news media, and also, so this plane has come down, which is the biggest crash. You see, what happens is, the object is not to establish something that's not going to last, but the object is when you establish something, you don't want to get a certain amount of media conscious gear to walk around it where the people start researching it. So therefore, if they pass something that they don't want you to get, they will create another illusion so you can tap into that. Same thing with the O.J. Simpson thing. Now, how in the devil can the Gulf War, like Dawood said, the Gulf War cost what? $50 million, right? $50 million for the Gulf War. And already they ain't gone to court yet with O.J. Simpson, and it's already cost $125 million just to crucify a black man. And you got to understand that obviously this black man is more important on how they view him in America than it is the Gulf War. For already $25 million. You understand what I'm saying? $125 million. And anytime they preempt soap operas, you understand what I'm saying? Which is a #1 selling thing when it comes to these women buying all this particular stuff. When you talk about the commercial revenues that come off soap operas, anytime they preempt that for a black man, you know it's got something that's going down. You see what I'm saying? So now the information that has come through was also that. Now, why is that? Because now, who am I going to believe? Am I going to believe the actual prophecies from the people from the South Pacific, which is indigenous people? Because if you go to Hawaii, you will see black people. You know what I'm saying? You will see black people. The indigenous people. Now, I got to have a bad sense of self-esteem and a non-belief in self that I'm not going to believe what these spiritual people say or what the news is saying. Remember now? And the news is saying, you know, whatever, everything beautiful. But we know better than that. But the transmission has said over and over again that the prophecies from the actual, the indigenous people of the South Pacific, dealing with Hawaii as well as your aboriginal countries or whatever, was accurate. Now, I've had plenty of these prophecies and all of them, but I know this has got to be the most accurate. Where they say, 1994, total balance and harmony, and the enlightened ones will be here. Well, the transmission that we got was not the total balance and harmony based on the actual society in the way the social structure is going, because that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. That's just some things to keep you knocked in the head and keep you working and diverting your energies to the wrong cause instead of going within. You going around. You understand what I'm saying? It's like a cat with the damn bag on his tail. You know, if you tie a bag to, if you ever seen this thing before, tie a bag and a string on a cat tail, he'll run till he dies. He'll run to death because he thinks something behind him. Same thing with all the conspiracy and everything else that's going down. So the indigenous people, when they say total balance and harmony, it's the same transmission that we got. That they're saying, hey, brother, this thing is already merged with the spirit. There ain't no difference between the third dimension and all the other dimensions. It's just a matter of us waking up. And the time is now. So otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to get into this. We would have been, say what you want, we would have been doing some things that wouldn't be evolving to spiritual. Now, I don't care what nobody say, we have never been to this level that we have been tapping into the vessels of the soul. It's always, even if we had all kind of Black Panther parties and political movements, it was always on the mundane level. Now, one other thing that's key. Now, don't listen to it based on analyzing it intellectually. Wouldn't it be something, isn't it something that in the final days, if you want to call it, that out of all of this time, the ones that will get into the metaphysical thing more than anybody in the country. Now, we know that white people are all in it. They've had 140 years with Blavatsky. They have been in it for long. Well, who would ever get into the metaphysical thing in the country than the people in the South? And the reason why I know is because by me traveling to the northern, I've been in Philadelphia a week before last, New York and Detroit and all, they're not even into this. They are just now getting into this particular thing. They like the Rand Dawood praising you. He was trying to tell them this stuff in 19, what you call it? You see what I'm saying? And he had to go ahead and house it into the whole conspiracy thing just to get it through. You see? But they are not into this at all. They're just not getting into this particular part. You understand? Now, it don't make a difference from a man from Mother, South Carolina to go start teaching the so-called black intellectuals to New York. But that ought to let you know that anytime the South wakes up, cornbread eating, ham hock eating, South, Southern, tapping into this kind of knowledge, and why Atlanta? Because Atlanta is key and crucial. Key and crucial. It is this particular part. It is the one. This is why all the people are coming to Atlanta. This is why they knew about the Atlanta Olympics in 1940-something. You see what I'm saying? And had to make dirty deals just to get it there because they knew that's what time it was. So it's something that the doggone black people in the South are waking up. You see? And we're not just talking about on the political realm. Because I'm telling you, in New York, it's still the same thing. They're still running behind John Henry Clark. Dr. Ben is coming through. Leonard Dreyfus is coming through. You see what I'm saying? How many times you got to tell a black man he's from Africa? You understand what I'm saying? How many times you got to tell him that? Where that becomes the same kind of religion that you talking about the Baptist church, it becomes the same thing. You see what I'm saying? Now, it's the same thing today. They got a lecture up at the mosque today. The history of the origin of the white man. See what I'm saying? Now, maybe you might need to discuss that maybe down in Mississippi with some people, whatever, and just don't know no history. But what is it when it comes to the originators of the origin of the white man, the Nation of Islam, still dealing with that? Where in your student lessons, you got to go into all of this particular stuff. You understand what I'm saying? Why they got a lecture today talking about that? Seems to me that's coming the same ejaculation type thing. That's redundant. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? And obviously, we could, if it ain't, you know what I'm saying? If your condition's still the damn same, then obviously something ain't right. You see, it ain't doing but so much. So now, my key is this. My key is this. This particular prophecies of the indigenous people, total balance, 1994, total balance and harmony, the enlightened ones will be here. We all enlightened, and I guarantee you, based on this, we have actually seen things verbatim. We have seen so much stuff that has gone down within the last year. Rapid. And I ain't just talking about 1993, because that was showed up. And Robert Calloway can tell you this too. Now I remember him saying, he said, look, we was dealing with conspiracy, Steve Copeland. He said 1993 is going to be a hell of a year. We're going to diminish rapidly. I mean, not diminish, we're going to excel rapidly. And all of a sudden, overnight, it was from the physical, mundane stuff to the spiritual. And that was the doggone kindergarten level of it. Now, 1995, a new race of fourth-dimensional humans will design a new reality. This is the spiritual Congress. The star people will be acknowledged. The design of a new human race comes from Sirius through lots of difficulties. Now, this is the key. It's written by white people. This is the key. But now, you look at this from just a ufological thing, it could just be a bunch of hocus pocus. It says, a new race of fourth-dimensional humans. Humans. They're not talking about some spooked out alien. They're talking about humans. This is the spiritual Congress. The star people will be acknowledged. That's what the key is when they say God's going to come like a thief in the night. They're not talking about you seeing them coming from out here, because all the government is still looking for stuff coming out here. But what they don't know is the star people born and raised right here. But they say every man, every woman is a star. You see what I'm saying? When you raise your Christ consciousness, that's a star. You see what I'm saying? The star people will be acknowledged. A new design of a human race will come from Sirius. They are already here. They already came. The white man already been witnessing all this stuff. Everything, every piece I get is saying that these black people come from Sirius. Well, the Egyptians said it. The Dogon said it. The Buddhists said it. The Buddhists got a whole holiday with that. In your Holy Quran, it says you what? This is the God who made both male and female from one single ejaculated semen. This is the Lord of Seas. I'm serious. If you deal with the actual the book, the Dalai Lama that they're talking about, whole book, Sun Gods on exile, coming from Sirius. And if you deal with the actual you trace that back to Hemmitt, who is the Lord of Sirius. He is Osir, Lord of the perfect black. In the Osir Osset Society, they tell you the first person, they tell you who. You are Osir. You are Osset. You understand what I'm saying? They are talking about, in Budge's book, he says, no, you don't get it. It's not so spooked out, just like John chapter 10, verse 34 to 36. It's not talking about some mythological creatures. It's talking about the icon Heru, Set-Typhon, and Heru, Set-Typhon, and Neptes. You're talking about the archetypes or the icons of a human race. They're talking about scientific people. They're talking about us. You understand? And that's the actual mythology to explain that, because mythology is actually physics. So they say through lots of difficulties, 1996, the migration into a new world, the people will leave in many different forms. Spaceships and angels die and be reincarnated. Whatever means accepted or hoped for. All who remain will hold the collective subconscious in their hearts. All can now be realized. 1997, the dream will be actualized. Earth will hold its place at the council of the brotherhood and sisterhood of planets. They're saying this here about this particular solar system. This particular solar system, there's one particular planet that's the most dead. That's us. Even though it's a solar system, you have people on other planets, and all those particular people have their problems. No other people are just dead because they know that the originators of this particular planet are dead. You understand what I'm saying? But the death is talking about the beast of Babylon, and it's talking about death, and it's not talking about some Hebrew lure. It's talking about the science of the Kundalini, and they call the earth the Kundalini, or the crown, or the root chakra, or the Kundalini that rises up and ignites the entire solar system. This is why your Holy Kabbalah is what? Broken down in what? Your Holy Kabbalah is not only broken down to your body, which means the constitution of man, or the autonomy of the body of God. Your Holy Kabbalah is also broken down as the spheres of planets, which the earth, Malkuth, being at the bottom. That's the Kundalini that rises up together. The crown chakra, in you the Kundalini rises up together, the crown chakra. The earth is the Kundalini Malkuth that rises up together, the crown chakra. You see what I'm saying? Which in your Bible it says that the people will be caught up unto heaven. They're talking about the children will be caught up into heaven. They're talking about the actual planets being caught up into another realm. So this is why they said this particular part. This particular science of this one has been the most accurate, and we have also got channel after channel, and they say, man, I'm telling you, it is the same thing. Now, let's deal with some other things that's going down at this particular time. So we met up with this particular mothership. One of the people, the brother Robert Flowers, he was a little pessimistic about it because he was having problems with his meditation, like he said, mind thinking all the time, and he was kind of, you know, discouraged and stuff, kind of frustrated because he wasn't getting any types of signs. But at that moment, they told us to lay on the ground. The Spirit told us to lay on the ground, so we had a channeler, and we put our feet together in a circle. And we put our feet together in a circle. This mothership came over us and started healing us. And believe me, I'm telling you, woo, boy, the last week has been a month. But I mean, you talking about some healing. So now, it came over and it started healing. Just then, for the first time in his life, Robert Flowers saw a lion came down, and this particular lion came down, and it had a lion's head, and it had some emeralds, I guess in the eyes or something. It was a gold-looking lion, he said, when he came up. Just then the person started channeling, and we met this particular figure. This time, it wasn't Thunderdog, it was a person by plain old Henry. So the first thing I said, I can't take that back to the people, because you know how they are. They also praise over these African names now, you know what I'm saying? So first thing I asked who was his Egyptian name, and he wrote down some letters, but they said that it was so powerful so we couldn't even translate it. It was one that was not translated in Egyptian history as far as what they found in hieroglyphics or metaneta, but it was one that the priesthood knew, and it was not translated. But they gave us the things, and it was a bunch of letters. And did you get anything out of it, Doris? It was a bunch of letters and all. So he said, "My name is Henry, and I'm from the West Indies." And I guess that was the time he rose himself up to Christ. I guess when he was in Kemet, he was the Christ. He came reincarnated to do a certain work and rose himself up to Christ again. So he was on the spiritual realm. But no, I believe they said, was he on the ship? Did she say he was on the ship? Or the spiritual realm?
Spiritual.
On the spiritual realm. So it said his name was Henry. And so he said that he had been helping with the initiations and all of that. And now for some reason, I think he said he died in the 1800s. Was that it? But he said he was a cousin to Haile Selassie, so obviously he was a distant cousin in the family. Because I think that Haile Selassie was born when? 18 what? What year was Haile Selassie born? You know? 1890 something, and I think 1892, and I think he said he died in 1894. Is what we channeled that time. And 1894, so he was a cousin to him, but I guess he was a cousin that, you know, died before he was born. But anyway, he also said that his name was Henry, and I don't know why I didn't ask what was his last name. I figured, well, hell, if I just got a whole name. But he also said that one of his incarnations, he was a Moor in Spain. So I asked him, I said, now, what? Immediately, my spirit told me, when I read this particular non-AWAS that you can get in the book that I put together, also in the works of Aleister Crowley, that talks about this AWAS, as well as a couple of other people in 1989 had some visions of this AWAS. The picture that I got was the Moor that you see in Spain on the book. Stanley Poole's book, The Moor in Spain, or the big poster everybody got of the black man from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. That Moor with the white garb on. But I said, is this the correct representation of AWAS? And they said, yes, it was. It was a correct representation of AWAS. I said, well, Henry said he was a Moor. And I said, so Henry, were you influenced by AWAS? He said, well, all of us are. We you know, this is just another name for the Most High. Yes, we all are. And I said, so that's, okay, I can understand that's the image. And I said, so that's a physical person. Well, AWAS was a physical person on the planet before too. I said, that's a physical person. Would that be, I said, who would that be when Edwin Clement did it? He said, well, he had a series of visions, because now the Moor of Spain was gone almost 200-300 years when Edwin Clement drew this particular picture in the late 1800s. So he said it was a spiritual vision, and he did not have a model for it. Now, I said, well, who in the hell was this particular person that he drew? And Henry said it was me. But the image was AWAS. But they said that the picture that on the wall that we had was Henry. Well, it was, because a lot of people have gotten a lot of spiritual things from that picture. If you ever look at that picture, you know what I'm saying? Number one, it represents a black man. Even if you're talking about the mundane realm, it represents a black man when he had some kind of power. The last vestige of power. You understand what I'm saying? But you know, the Moors can go all the way back to Lemuel or Mu. We know this now because the Greeks talk about the doggone Moors. And remember, these Greeks was talking about the Moors in their doggone heyday, when Islam wasn't even nowhere started. So how in the hell the Moors could be? They used the Islamic thing as a vessel to civilize Europe, you see, and bring the art of alchemy to Europe also too. So now this particular person, Henry, was there, you see. And so we met up with this particular person, Henry. All this time he didn't say build no altar, but he gave us a series of transmissions about what they would talk about this in the coming thing. Number one, this particular history of AWAS. He said AWAS was reincarnated Al-Sut. Al-Sut was the original name of this particular god from Lemuria. His first name was Al-Sut. AWAS was a reincarnation, but AWAS was the first physical form. This is why Aleister Crowley said this was a god of Samaria. Well, come to find out that Samaria was older than dynastic Egypt, but was not older than pre-dynastic Egypt, because that's Nubia and Cush. So in the cuneiform writings, because cuneiform is supposed to be there, he talked about this god AWAS that was worshipped by the Yazidis. But you can trace that all the way back to Ethiopia, and his name was Sutnesi, which means the black Negro god Sutnesi. And this particular AWAS was supposed to have been the first god that walked upon the earth in the physical form, a reincarnation of the celestial Al-Sut, which means Sirius. AWAS is the Lord of Sirius. His next reincarnation is Osar. He was next reincarnated as Osar, or Asar, which is Osiris. You see, Osiris. Now this is key about this particular person, Hemmitt. And this is why now we don't need for nobody to tell us that we ain't tapped in. Because this is all beautiful stuff coming down the pipes. We don't need to read no damn books. Henry is a reincarnation of Osiris. You see what I'm saying? At that particular time in Jamaica. Yeah, in Jamaica, West Indies, but you know. At that particular time, which we did get. Didn't we get that? We did get that. Wrote it down as soon as the channel came. I made sure I wrote this thing down. Ask a certain question to get the answer. So now when you look at the actual picture, you are looking at an actual picture of the god Osar, which means the god of the perfect black. Okay? Now, that's one of the actual one. Now, this is the key. Now, be that as it may. They say that this Master Farah Muhammad did exist. The reason why you cannot get any knowledge on it because he existed in Atlantis. But they said that Annie Besant did channel this particular knowledge on, to give to people, she did channel this particular knowledge on Yakub with the Theosophical Society. Annie Besant channeled it. C.W. Ledbetter used it, and A.E. Powell used it in the Astro Body when he talks about the black magicians of Atlantis. This is what went down. Because I said, well, wait a minute, because I want to get this right, because I just don't want to think that this man with the full-fledged education is lying. They said he did do it, and they said that he did exist, and he created a mutant in Atlantis. Same thing that Annie Besant and them say. Now, they say the same thing. They said that there's a mutant created, you can get the book, A.E. Powell's book, C.W. Ledbetter book, and the book Annie Besant and C.W. Ledbetter called Man, Wits, Wither, and Now. The same thing about this particular part of Atlantis. They even gave us an African name. They said he had another person that had his hands on doing it by the name of Wash Forth. This particular Yakub ended up being trapped into a lower astral realm, and he's trapped. It's about like that Superman 2 movie. Remember they trapped them 3 people in glass? About like that. They said that he was trapped. I got it from 5 different people. Same thing. Said he was trapped, but one of his students by the name of Washforth. By the name of Washforth. I don't even tell on you though. One of his students by the name of Washforth was he reaped karma by reincarnating, and he reincarnated and became his own creation and reincarnated into Aleister Crowley. If you get the book, how much I got? What? 1 minute? Or what? 1 hour? Oh shoot, you holding that up. You get the book of Thoth, in his last chapter, he said, the strange race that I have found myself reincarnated into. He became his own karmic creation. We got this from both 1, 2, 3 people. And then, the thing about it, I test the spirit. If I go to doggone New York and I meet up with him, I ask him the same question. Seeing if I'm going to get the same, see if I'm going to get a different thing. They say, you already know that we already told you such and such, such and such, the same thing. See what I'm saying? The same thing. Then I always ask, who is this talking? Melchizedek or Awas. You see what I'm saying? We got Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara is another one who was a priest in Kemet. And he sits on the right-hand side of Mayat, and he wrote this particular mantra for you to say in prayer. Light will overcome. Light will make us one. Light from the blue fire sun, command us all free. Sanat Kumara is a particular Christ from Sirius that did not reincarnate. We do have this particular actual information. Also, you got your girl, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, the white girl. She deals with him also too, because they even got underground cabins for things that's getting ready to go on. So she deals with this particular person too in some of her books. But this is Sanat Kumara. Another person is Kuthumi. Kuthumi. So this is some stuff. Now, it said that you had a particular priest by the name of Manu. You can get the book, Atlantis in Memorial by Rudolf Steiner. Real key book, because he misconstrued it. He says that Manu took a secret seed, a secret germ, and he created a new race of people. Well, in the channeling, Manu was a righteous person, and because he's now trained, he's now going to he's now gone to Sirius. He's in the physical subterranean world of Sirius. So obviously for him to go on and not be reincarnated, obviously. But what had happened was Manu was a scientist in Atlantis. And Manu did not take a, he misconstrued that, my man Rudolf Steiner's book. He misconstrued that Manu was the teacher of Yakub. And this is how Yakub learned the art of genetic engineering, which is already very rich. Now, for your documentation, because we also got it, that in the history of Israel by Bright, which dealing with the manuscripts of the Hyksos, and dealing with, in the book, Donald Radford's book, Egypt, Israel, and Canaan, they got the historical documents of Yakub Kerr. That was his name, Yakub Kerr. It's in the actual historical documents. We got the channeling, it's the same person. And not only that, the Hyksos was worshippers of, part worshippers of Yakub Kerr, but they was worshippers based on a lack of information, because this is thing that was long at that time. But you see, and this is the particular science on that, and it's all documented in the particular book. Donald Redwood's book, Israel, Canaan, and Egypt. That particular one also too. Now, so this is some stuff that is actually going on. One key to the hierarchy is, the ultimate secret of the hierarchy is the secret of the woman. Now the secret of the woman is this. Women are better than men in a sense. Now what they mean is this. Number one, the spirit is what you would call dual, or what you would call just pure spirit. But when we talk about women being better, we're talking about the reincarnation role that is taken on based on the role she is playing. The vessel that she is housed is a far more superior vessel in the sense that she can do a certain amount of things. It says, because the enigma of women and her role in the secret occultism, the eon of Mayat, which is ushered in the mysteries of the symbols of obscure. Yet today the emergence of women as a being in her own right, free and potent to control her own destiny, which is discomforting hint. This is the author that's talking. He says a discomforting hint, but I think he's just trying to be funny. That she may surpass the male in knowledge and power, is paving the way for an advent of a new eon, therein she will function as her own way, function as her own gateway of cosmic influence will be invoked. Now what do they mean by that? When they say women are better than men in a sense, they don't have to jump the abyss. Now in your tree of life, when you go up the cosmic ladder of the tree of life, the black dot or dark is called the abyss. It's called the desert of Set. Notice, it's called the Amenta, the deep subconsciousness. And in that deep subconsciousness, you can tap into doorways from universe A to universe B, and you can automatically be free. You understand what I'm saying? It's like another timeline. You're in this messed up timeline, but there's a timeline on the universe B where everything is copacetic. You see what I'm saying? And cool. And you're crossing the gateway of the abyss, which is the subconscious of your mind, which is the hell. Remember now, that's your hell. The Amenti, which is dark, which represents death. The death symbolizing the death of the spirit dying and going to the divine spirit. You understand? Now, it says that they do not have to jump the abyss. Women in their own ways, and they have their own abyss. The women ministry, and they have told me that it is a doorway from them during their period. They become something else. It says that my little sisters, during their menstrual periods of dreaming, becomes power. There is a crack or a doorway that opens. And in front of us during these days, 2 days before her period, a woman can open the doorway of the crack and step into another world. You see, then you understand why the system of control, when it was time to put down what you call your exoteric scriptures, they took all of the science from the woman and turned it around. And why it is now, even the doggone Muslims say the doggone woman should not read the Quran while she's on her period. The period is the most sacred time. Because the period, remember now, the world goes through cycles. The woman goes through cycles. And on her period, she can go to other alternative gateways and alternative universes, which is talking about tapping into the abyss and the gateways in her mind. You see what I'm saying? So this is the type of stuff that they're talking about in this particular time. They said that in this particular cycle, all people who are not given the science on the woman will be set down. That's the first thing the sister said. The sister said, when I got the channel, she said, ooh, I'm seeing some things. She said, even with the nation of Islam, she said the face of Islam is going to change. And she said, even with the face of Islam, the nation of Islam is not going to be taken over by none of them. It's going to be taken over by a black woman that knows the science and knows what she's talking about. And she can deal with them by giving them more spiritual means of going within other than the mundane, egotistical, male chauvinist murder cults, all of that shit. You see, that's what's going on. You know, the biggest egos is going down with that man running stuff and all this kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying? Got the sister all covered up. You see. So now, this is so that was some things that she was also talking about too. Now, they say in this last thing, this particular science of the woman is going to come out. That's why they turned this Lilith, the science of Lilith, they turned her into this evil devil. And she is married to the evil serpent Samuel and all of this particular stuff. And they said that the suppression of the woman was a political thing that started in Hemmitt. You see, started in Hemmitt. At one time you got the gods where they have the mother and the son. And then you have the mother and the son. And then you have the next gods, they got the actual thing where the father is supreme. So these are some things that they said will actually go on too. Now, it says, Zechariah Stitchen says that all people on earth was a genetic experiment. That was not true. Man is nothing but a cosmic entity, and he can tap into his universal consciousness. That's not true. Otherwise, nobody will have any doggone hope. Gerald Massey, we also told you, because when I asked was he influenced, I said yes he was, but then we got the transmission that came back and said no, he was a black man that was passing. And he entered into the British Museum under the behest of a guy by the name of Samuel Birch, and he took him 40 years and he reversed all the doggone stuff. And they could not figure out why this black man would write the damn truth about the particular science and bring it all the way back to the primal equatorial Africa. You see what I'm saying? They said because he was a black man that was passing. That was the science. I was blown. I was like, what? Then the next thing was, he was also influenced by Awas and also Melchizedek, what you want to call the same thing, the same science, you see, the deal, as well as Blavatsky being influenced with the Mahatmas. Now, Haiti, which I had to get the channel because I said it felt too good to be true. They said that Haiti was a leftover part of Lemuria. Now, I don't know how this thing actually goes, but then again, I'm willing now not to believe anything, because I'm saying everything that we believe is scientific data is totally wrong. Haiti is a leftover part of Lemuria. And they says, this is why, one reason why they want to go into Haiti, because I'm still saying, well, why they really want to go into Haiti? Because they know the science on this particular part. And when we got a channel, it was the same thing about this particular part that was left over in, leftover part of Lemuria. And this is the reason why this is one of the reasons why they actually have to do what they have to do. Now, we're going to do some things, wrap some stuff up, and we're going to go into some, question and answer that you want to. I asked them was, well, with this Uncle Tom size, they said, yeah, the ones who know what time it is, yes, they are going to be critical, they are going to be chastised, excuse me, and all. Now, yes, they said that Master Farah Muhammad was part black, because Imam Esau put out the stuff that he was a white man, and they said also Awas was a part of that form of that channel, and Master Farah Muhammad was a Sufi person that came from the East and was a Sufi master. This is actually what went on with him. Ramesses II was also embodied by Awas. Awas is talking about the primal force, that particular god, the first one. That's just his Sumerian name. You see, that's, and he was also a follower of the god Sut, Al-Sut, which was also going all the way back to Atlantis and all. Like I said before, Henry died. Henry was one of these reincarnation things that died in 1894. and he was also the cousin of Haile Selassie. Now, we got on some things on the TV that got this big ass blackout that's coming out, right? Some blackout that they're getting ready to do to run their whole FEMA game and all that particular stuff, right? And a whole lot of things that's going down. I heard you had a dream of the same blackout, right?
Yeah.
And you dreamed that also that it was a spaceship that was coming as big as Atlanta.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So now how is it that this stuff's going to come on and we're going to get this particular information and then she get the same dream in the whole 9 yards? And you need to put the water under your bed to focus in on your dreams. The sister came from, the Yoruba priestess from Chicago, from Detroit called and told me that I need to put water up under my bed to tap in on some of these dreams, and I started doing it and all. And the dreams came from black and white. Remember them in color and all. You know, I sure remember them in color also too. Now, what we're going to do now is I want to get some question and answers because I've always been accused by going so long and never really get any question and answer. But now, with this particular crime bill that they're talking about, they're going to do this martial law thing. You see what I'm saying? We got the date when they're supposed to done it, but I'm not going to tell you the date because they're saying, and your own thing is, just by being a non-believer or a person that just suspects that everything is everything, you don't believe in nothing, you just go right ahead. But one thing the sister got, and I don't know if you really have to do it because the simple fact that my thing is, Sister Ty Seeley, when she did the channels, not just for conscious people, but for other people that was not in the world, she kept getting stockpiling. Now we also know that this new crime bill, they got a law in there that if you buy 2 weeks worth of grocery, they'll penalize you for it. So that's all that you know, that these particular things is also going on, also going down. But my particular point is that I wouldn't necessarily want to too much worry, because my thing is you can never stockpile enough food. I think that you need to start dealing with the spiritual purposes. You understand what I'm saying? This is how we're going to fight this thing here, because we're not going to deal with the political agenda. That's what he wants us to do. You see what I'm saying? So this is why all of a sudden they start putting out all these New World Order books. You see what I'm saying? You start dealing with that and all and start doing this. See, we're going to deal with this on the spiritual purposes. And all you got to do is go with inside. Now, you know, we're not talking about going inside and not receiving something. We say, as this catastrophe comes on, you best believe that your spirit will start telling you what to do. You already got built-in mechanism in your body that will tell you everything you need to do. You see what I'm saying? So you need to do these particular things too. Another thing is also too, well, my thing is that the white man is giving out money through all the Uniform Commercial Codes and CMOs. Well, I suggest you go and get it. You've been broke all this time. But my point is this. We know that he's going to offer reparations in the last days. See what I'm saying? That's why he's doing it. Now, wait a minute now. You had already accepted the white man wasn't going to give you nothing. You'd already accepted that. Now, all of a sudden, the white man's telling you he's going to give you something when you already accepted that he was not going to give you nothing. That's like saying, why give out money when you don't have to? If it's fixed, don't break it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You see what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden he's talking about reparations. You see what I'm saying? And now it's got your mind off of this and into the spirit. Because he knew that the first thing you was going to do is you going to tap into your Afrocentricity. And then once you learn self, that some people was going to figure out that it's not just enough to just know self. But if I go back further enough, that myself used to be God. And so, to know myself, I got to know God, and then you'll get into the science of God. So he knew sooner or later when you tapped into this particular Afrocentricity, that was the first level of you going into the science of the soul. You understand what I'm saying? So the first thing he starts doing is, now you laid into the Afrocentric thing, and now all of a sudden, people will start tapping into the science of the soul. And he knows that he has enough materials out here in these bookstores that it ain't no excuse if you really want to find out about your spiritual self. You see what I'm saying? So then all of a sudden what he starts doing, he starts taking reparations, he starts breaking down his laws as to say that in actuality you can get over on him by knowing the law. Now come on now, are we this damn stupid? You think if he didn't want you to know about the law that he would keep this out? You understand what I'm saying? You thinking, now wait a minute, are we this crazy? We think it's just that easy? The man gonna put out a book, he gonna put out information so you can break his system or so you can be him. You understand what I'm saying? The whole thing is, you supposed to be getting back your planet. And we're not talking about no physical, we talking about the whole enchilada, but you rising up to spiritual suns. They say the whole planet is going into a central cosmic sun, which the Kundalini rises is in the sun. And they said the solar products on the planet will come into suns too. Now how in the devil that you supposed to be getting back the universe? And you gonna go for the 30 pieces of silver? You see what I'm saying? 30 pieces of silver. That's like telling the God, I don't want what you got for me, which is universal consciousness and all of the universe. I want what's in Macy's and damn J.C. Penney's. You understand what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, this man starts talking about reparations. You see? So, with the Afrocentric mind, since you on the mundane and since you only got into it to just feel good and to better your conditions with white people in the first place, you didn't want to raise yourself up spiritually. You just want to better your conditions so you can live a good life. There's nothing wrong with that, but the simple fact that you did what you thought was right. You understand what I'm saying? You can't fault you, but the whole key is he's still running this thing, so now all of a sudden he's saying, put the reparations in and keep their mind off of going within. Remember now, in the last days, they're going to throw everything, and you'll be doing things miraculous. You'll be doing things, you'll be spending money, you'll be doing things, and so you say you beating the white man at the game, and all you had to do was go in your room and sit down, and down, close your eyes. As simple as that. You see? But they told me when they first got in contact, they say, man, you don't understand. Look for the simple. The simple is greater than all this stuff you're saying, because you're gonna find it in the simple. So we get into the even with the first leg of the spiritual thing, we got into the philosophy of it. You see, reading all the science of what the soul is, instead of experiencing it by sitting down. And you know the hardest thing to do is to sit down and meditate. Anybody know this for a fact? That's the hardest thing to do than anything else. Hell, you can go and work and dig shitholes with a white man from sun up to sundown. But go try to sit down. It's way harder than what you think. So in the last days, this man is going to give you everything, throw the reparations your way, and all you needed to do was go in the room and sit down. The Wizard of Oz told you that from the get-go. She going to go to the doggone wizard, he could get a doggone potion, and all she said was all you had to do, you could have the power to go home all the time. Just tap your heels and go within, and you could go home all the time, because all it was is she was in a dream, she was in a sleep, and she had to wake up from the sleep. You see what I'm saying? So now that's the key to this whole thing is, now all of a sudden, only thing you need is a damn pillow on the floor to do your thing, to free yourself, but he's telling you now, go get the money. You see what I'm saying? Go get the money. And so, that will keep you busy until the doggone stuff go out, and then you got to start all over again. You see what I'm saying? You got to start all over again. You see, 3 minutes? 30 minutes. You got to start all over again. So now the whole key to this whole thing is, yes, we come to the lectures and we come to hear miraculous ways, but the key to that is, you got to go within. Now listen to this. This is some science that I'll print it. It's 3 pages, but it's 3 pages that explain this whole thing, or how this illusion that you got. Take for instance, there's a good movie, 2 good movies. Go see the Philadelphia Experiment Part 2.
Part 2?
Part 2. There's Part 1, which is the real story on how the thing went through the timeline. Part 2 is a movie based on fiction, but it's based on the science of where we are right now. Now what happens is, Part 1, this particular ship, they was trying to make a cloaking device, and they ended up transporting a ship from 1943 to 1983. This was a true story. So right there it's telling you, the difference between time and dimensions in the Philadelphia Experiment. Now Philadelphia 2, supposed to be when the ship went through to 1983, a stealth bomber from 1983 went back to 1943, and Hitler got a hold to it. And as a result, he hit Washington, D.C. and blew up Washington, D.C., and they won the war. But it created a split, and it's an alternative timeline. So in one timeline, it's just like it is now, 1993. You see what I'm saying? In another timeline, it is America under German rule. You understand what I'm saying? Under German rule. You see? Basically, and this guy had to go back to 1943 and get the stealth bomber destroyed and all before they attacked Washington, D.C. to sever that timeline. Okay? Same thing is going on with us right now. It's almost to say that we are in an alternative dimension. The reason why, because we got this channel Friday. I said, wait a minute. Well, did this happen to us? Was it a doorway? They say yes. It was a doorway that closed up 19,000 BC. Is what it said. 19,000 BC, it was a doorway that closed up, and some of those people got trapped in the alternative dimension that you call the subterranean world, which is a whole nother world. You understand? So you don't have to go down under, it's a whole nother dimension. And the other ones, because of bad karma, had to live out this particular karma, and they stayed in this world. So you got two dual timelines that's going on the earth. One is paradise, and one is the other. You see what I'm saying? But they just told us Saturday, bear witness, they said that this particular, there's no difference in dimensions now. As of Sunday, they told us this. And then all of a sudden, we get the white people coming on TV, and the psychics talking about bearing witness that the people are coming from the subterranean world by December.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? Now that's the thing. So we got two alternative timelines. Now the difference between that particular timeline and this one, and the whole universe was what? To tap into your regions of your mind to get back to that particular part. And this is what's actually going on. There's another movie called Apex. You can read Philadelphia Experiment Part 2 and go read Apex. Same thing. They created this disease in the future. In 2023 something. And then they went back to excuse me. They didn't create a disease. They took a robot and transported him from 2073 to 1973. And because of the robot or some kind of thing, it created a disease. And because it created a disease, and because this robot was not blown up in 1973, it created an alternative timeline. So when the brother went back through the vortex, which remember we opened up a vortex, when the brother went back through the vortex, his time was the progression of 1973 through a messed up time of disease up to then. And he was in another world. And he had to go shut down this activator so he could get the regular alternative timeline. This is actually science on what's going on in your mind and why this particular world that you're thinking about is all an illusion. That's why on this particular thing that I'm going to print out and give to the people, it says all gods are but one and all religions are but one. The universe exists in the mind of God. I, son, child of man, and Father, the one God, are one. Now, it says, if the universe exists in the mind of God, then what exists in the mind of man if man is God? The same universe. You see? Your logical and rational mind is nothing but a cheat. It's an illusion. It's a cheat. It's a fraud. That's why you can't get it through intellectualizing it, to try to change your conditions. And anything that you think is logically, that's why the average intellectual person could never bear witness to the thing spiritual. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to the Melanin conference last week, but the sister said the last time she was up there, it was the same old intellectual thing, trying to intellectualize something that can't be, that's got to be dealt with spiritual. So they going through all the damn chemical compounds, and all this stuff here. And we're talking about the soul. And we're talking about tapping into this alternative universe, and so they can't get it because they're trying to rationalize, and that mind is a fraud. You see what I'm saying? So the average time you come up on anybody that's so scholarly, you got to come with all this, but they're trying to left brain it, and it ain't that way. You see what I'm saying? So the whole time, they've been calling the sister inferior, because the sister is right brain, and she can deal with a certain amount of things on a spiritual level that you misconstruing for female intuition. That's higher than that. It's the innate stuff that's left over from the godhood, and so therefore, she's able, the man, because he can't rationalize that, he calls her inferior. I just know that a man is more smarter than a woman. It's the other way around. The stuff that you got is a cheat and a fraud. You see? Mainly, the ego can take that over and can run that. That's why this male ego thing. We're not saying the sisters don't have egos too, but we're talking about an innate quality, you see. based on the vessel and the role that she is dealing with now with that particular womb and universe, she's able to tap into some of that and all. And believe me, bear witness. I've seen the sister do some things also too. So we're talking about a cheat and a fraud. The magician, which is not talking about no man that does magic, that's talking about you doing the spiritual work, can tap in and can neutralize this particular falsehood and go straight into the real world. That's what is upon us now. All the other stuff does not exist and it does not matter. You see what I'm saying? It does not matter. What did they say about the white man? About the lower ego, and they said that he never existed.
Well,
now I know that kind of crazy because we caught hell behind that, but then again,
they even say in his law book that the law we live by is a fiction, a fraud, and an illusion.
Right.
Color of law. Something that you think exists but really doesn't exist.
Right. Well, it's the same thing as is this particular system. Now I know that's kind of crazy because you are so much into the physical, thinking that the physical is everything. You think that your body and your ego is everything. So these are some things that's actually going down. And now I want to say this here because I'm going to tell you what allowed me to go ahead and continue speaking. Number one, the Spirit that came and told me to get this thing up in April. So I told Brother Dawood, I'm giving this thing up in April. Because every time I turn around, the Spirit. But the key is when we went on the Pinson Mounds, the Indian ancestors said that it was all right and keep on doing what you're doing because you're doing the good job. So I kept on doing what I'm doing. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because I made up in my mind that I was going, you got to tell the truth. You got to teach people truth as far as going within and you are God. You see what I'm saying? Everybody else ain't dealing with that. If you're not dealing with that, you're not dealing with nothing on the planet when it comes to cosmic consciousness. You see what I'm saying? And basically, and you know the means to go out and do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to, really, it's just like anything else. The white man tell you that there's something, a rainbow at the end of the line, you will walk that rainbow, you'll fly that rainbow. So it's the same thing when it comes to your own soul. Nobody don't have to teach you how to go out and do some things and do the same thing. You already got it in you. You see what I'm saying? You already have it in you. So these are the particular things also too that's dealing with. So the reason why that is because I continued is because I said that long as you teaching the people the truth about what's going on, about going inside, you can keep on doing this stuff and all and things. Now, it says when we was talking to them, the hierarchy, they said that they got a big sense of humor and they laugh at us all the time. Now, to let you know that this is real, all you got to do is study the Yoruba deities. And what is so sacred about the Yoruba deities is the Yoruba deities carry on with certain amount of human traits to teach you that the Godhead is not unlike you. This is why you got to, not just the rituals, but always you got to get you some books on the mythology of the Yoruba and understand the Yoruba story that came out of deepest Africa, because this is telling you something about the gods that you thinking is this holy, chastising, divine, crazy stuff, and they got doggone, they have actually sense of humor just like you, and they say they laugh at us all the time. And I say, well, y'all know we give you a laugh, not to laugh off, and all. So this is some things that they also said too about what they did. They said that the reason why the Earth, they said that now they got this Andromeda, and there's some black people from the Andromeda, and this particular LAM is actually dealing with them. Well, you know, there's a white boy got a tape out from California. Who brought that? You brought that tape here. What's the name of that white boy?
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but he got a tape, and he read with it, but he said it was some blue people. They say that, you know. They told us that it was some black people, and the white boy read with him, he said, because he was in touch with them. When we got the channel, they said the same thing. They said that it was, you know, he was in touch with them and all, and they were trying to help some white people. And the white boy was telling the truth. Now also too, they said that Andromeda, they said it was Andromeda has also, they have a lot of problems, but the problems are not as bad as Earth. Nothing compared to that. Then they said the reason why Earth is so bad because it is the supreme. They said because it's going through the most dead, it's the most dead. It is the most supreme. But I got 5 minutes? 15 minutes, it's the most dead. So that's the actual supreme, and also too. So they said you must completely die to become supreme. Now that's in all phases of the word. That's why a lot of people, when they die, they kind of upset that they got to come back here and do this thing also again, and and do this thing again also too. And also at this time, what I'm going to do is we're going to close out for a little bit of question and answers, and you can get the actual tape. Now this is interesting here too, because to show you about the dwarf deity, because when I asked was about Osiris, they said that Osiris is actually it's a code word for the spirit and the soul also. That's why they say the soul of Osiris, God of the perfect black. And they talk about this dwarf deity. And if you look at this picture, this is an original picture of Osiris, which is this particular dwarf deity that they talk about. A big-headed little pygmy man. You see what I'm saying? But now, a big-headed little pygmy man. Now, Reverend Valentine swears out that the original people was green at first. Said they were green. Well, he was not wrong, he said, because also melanin has to do with green. Well, they also indicated that lamb is also green. They indicated that lamb originally came from the Pleiades. And it ain't got nothing to do with this Pleiades white people talking about. And he was green. They say, but that's still an indication of melanin, because if you understand the Osirian drama, or Osirian drama, he is a black god, God of the perfect black, but he's also a green god. You see what I'm saying? It represents vegetation. Because you know that all your vegetation has melanin. You see what I'm saying? Has melanin also too. So it says about the actual green god also too. So now, this is one thing also too. Now, we're going to give you 10 ways to raise the Kundalini. For you people that is in the, that has been into meditation. For the other people, it probably won't work no way, because you got to do the work. We got 10 good ways to raise the Kundalini also too. One way, this is why, you know, I kept saying to you that if the person is in the Christian church, some of them need to be in the Christian church, but then again, even in that vessel, you can use that by the means. We're going to go into some things. 10 ways to raise the Kundalini, meaning the Kundalini can be stirred up sometime by awakening any of the following methods. It says that connecting and absorbing the mind in the sources brought on by intense study. They're saying by intense study you can also do this also, but I don't think that in your case it probably wouldn't rise that way, because you could damage the chakras by it just shoot up. Now one reason why I asked them, I said, well, you've been giving me the juice. They said, yeah, but we've been giving you the juice a certain way. They said, now we've been giving you the juice, and we'd raise it up to a certain point, and it would regenerate your cells. Then we'd raise it up again, they said, because if we were to give you all of the juice, you would just blow up in flames. You would combust, because that would be all that cosmic energy. So we give it to you, but the key to the whole thing is this now. In the initiation periods. But they also told me that a lot of the ways that you read in these books on the Kundalini and all this severe pain, all of this stuff, they said that a lot of that was based on the way white people get it. Based on the non-melanated bodies, and based on a certain amount of things with them, that their bodies being of a mutated form, when the Kundalini comes with them, they go through these particular problems. They said with us, it's almost like reading a book, at a certain time it's a natural process. And this is a natural process. So one way they said was through drugs. Now, the drugs that they're talking about, even though you can raise it through alcohol, but that's some dangerous stuff there, because you can call for deities and spirits that can mess you up. The drugs that they're talking about, if you go to the Orient, they got a certain amount of ginseng drugs that can get you just as high. I was up with a friend named Bill Lilly, when I go to New York to speak, and he got a whole bar. He used to have a bar full of liquor. Now he done got on the spiritual path, and so he got the same bar, but he gets you just as drunk off natural herbs. And he go into this ginseng 1, 2, and 3, and ain't none of the alcohol. It's straight up herbs. And the Chinese been dealing with this for years. And he take you level 1, level 2, and level B, and you have to crawl to bed. So that's the kind of stuff. These are the kind of drugs they're talking about. The natural herbs that they used to be also too. Also, I'm going to introduce at the Melanin Conference, there's a plant called the cat. What is it called?
Cat.
The chat. The chat? The chat. And there's a sacred plant of ancient Kemet, and this particular plant is broken down and it deals with melanin. And this particular one, and we got the actual information on this chat also too. That's one too. So that particular one, drugs, they're talking about certain ginseng. Jazz and certain music can do it. Why jazz? Credo, rhythmic, drumming, and mantra. Why jazz? Because we even got some type of stuff about jazz. Some of the people came from, you remember now, a lot of people in New York and a lot of people that was the pioneers of jazz. And in New Orleans, some of those people have an origin from the West Indies too. And a mixture of that. And some of the jazz is created right out of Baudin. Some of the actual stuff that they got off of Baudin and also West Indian divination systems. We got the history on that. So jazz can actually do this particular stuff. Induce speed that can loosen the astral body and make a possible wheel influx of cosmic energy. And also this particular dance is done by voodoo practitioners. The reason why I know that is because when I was in the plane and I was going to Philadelphia, the plane hit an air pocket. And when it hit an air pocket, my kundalini shot up. And I was on the plane like this, and I could feel it. It shot all the way up. So it was the same way, because when it went down, it was the same way of getting on a roller coaster. So when we channel it, they say, yeah, that roller coaster, the Great American Spring Machine can do that too, also too. The concept is so now, induce speed and all that. Some joggers get that when they be running like that. They can raise this particular energy. Now, what they've also told us that this natural process is when you do this particular thing, and even I even got white people. Even white people said they had problems doing it, and it had all kind of blockages and messed them up. But they said that black people, the carbonated ones, as they say, they said black people, they have a way better natural way, and there's no problem doing this particular stuff. Also, okay, magically control sexual actions on the kundalini, talking about sex tantra, raising up spirituality. This is one reason why we channeled, they had to come up with the AIDS thing and come up with the whole thing with the whole sex thing. Because sexual tantra, when I talk about the magic of sex, we don't want to mess around with it if you don't, because it's also too, but then again also too, it's dangerous to other people. Because obviously for them to shut down that, they know that they can do the thing to us too. Absolute compassion for all created things. This is the Buddhist method of par excellence that leads to higher trances and also states of natural, prominent self-realization and activism. The Buddhists have absolute compassion for everything. This is one of the best ways and all. Also, when I say things coming naturally. Now, check this out. An ecstatic personal rapture induced by the complementation of a supreme deity. They're saying that having this particular love and will on the actual supreme deities, that some people in church can have this particular love for God. We're not talking about on a moral code where you just in church trying to learn how to behave when most of you already know how to behave. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people that spiritually have a certain love. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? That can actually raise it also too. Religions and induce absolute convince under a personal deity that leads to transcendence of an individual and steps into cosmic entity. The devotee is caught up into heaven and his God. That means the supreme love. We're not talking about being in church for guilt. We're talking on another realm. You see what I'm saying? This can happen. Also, good old gospel music. And all you seen the people go straight up crazy with that gospel music, and the doggone people in the white, they be in the church and them nurses got to come and hold them down. You see what I'm saying? That's the same trance state that you have in Baudin with Marie Laveau and all of that, releasing that fire snake and all too. So those was 9. The other one is some crazy stuff. I guess this is written by white people. They're talking about complete violence. Well, that ain't a part of our history. Violence. But isn't it funny? Because we went to go see the natural born killers. Now, you know that this is not just talking about the traits of just a mass murderer. That's some bull jive. Because we got several people, you can put it on we do a little question now. We got billions of people on the earth that's dead, and that ain't because of no mass murderers. You see what I'm saying? Now, in this movie, with what you got to go see this movie because the movie is done in an artsy movie, but the movie they're showing this particular mass murdering and the whole deal, if it was based on this particular mass murderer, they would not show the society that creates that. In this movie, they're showing the TV set, the media, the newspapers, the way of life in this particular European nation, which is not talking about producing mass murderers. They're talking about the actual nature in this particular nation was all a mass murderer. And so this particular movie, he's dropping the science in the movie, and you got to go see the movie, because when he went on the Indian reservation, the first thing the man said, you the devil. You're the evil one. You're the evil one. And all the stuff is in the movie, and they start going into a ritual to purify this particular person. And in the movie, they start glorifying the mass murderers, because the first thing he said was, the guy said, you are the greatest, because he killed about 40-something people in a week. So he said, you are the greatest mass murderer. You greater than Jeffrey Dahmer. And he started running off this. He said, am I greater than Master? They said, no, you ain't greater than Master. He said, yeah, I know. I couldn't get the king. You know, he referred to Master like Elvis Presley. He's like, well, I can take second best to the king. You know, this kind of thing here. But you got to go see the movie. And also, I guess this is the hell that they're talking about right this particular part right here. But one thing about the Kundalini, and they're talking about cosmic consciousness. Once the Kundalini is open, the real world begins and the illusionary world disappears. So, they're still talking about the same thing over and over again. Now they're saying this here. They said also, too, what was the key thing that the Spirit said? They said that you've got to start dealing with certain herbs and plants and different things, different herbs and different things. A good tape that you need to listen to is the tapes of Johnny Moore. Very key. So they said there's a lot of psychic warfare going on, and you've got to start dealing with certain herbs and plants. Because there's a lot of psychic warfare going on, and with those herbs and plants, you can do these things to surround yourself for good protection. If you're on a high vibratory rate, you shouldn't worry about that, but since most of us are not, you need to start dealing with things to ward off these particular things, because we know right in the Emory area, these particular white witches in the Emory area have been putting psychic warfare on different places like black media, as well as Florence Jackson Academy. And they say that Florence Jackson can actually counter some of that. They say because the reason why they was able to put it on there, because some of the people that they deal with in their financial businesses, that they think that these financial people that's keeping the school open is the same damn witches that's putting the stuff on them. You see what I'm saying? Just putting the stuff on him. And there's a lot of stuff that went down with that whole Florence Jackson thing also too. So these are some things also too that they also need to do. Now, if you want to, you want to go into a question and answer, or something and all, or you want to just go in just a second and do case right quick. Also, you don't want your mind to get a lot of this stuff. Now, also to let you know that this is one key thing that I'm taking to the scholars at the Melanin Conference, because they don't believe nothing past Egypt. Right here they got the god Anubis that is found in the South Pacific, and what they're saying is Anpu or Anubis, they have traced it and they have done the carbon dating, and this stuff dates back 90,000 years. So this is some other stuff that is saying that Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu existed. And like they all said, we did not claim this, but every white person claimed this. And even Blavatsky in her book that said that that there were black people in Atlantis. That's who it was. You see what I'm saying? Even that too, as well as we know that they said that she's a black person also too. Blavatsky. Madame Blavatsky in her book, The Secret Doctrines. But it's only one key. They give a lot of scientific stuff, but there's an old saying about a theosophist. They say a theosophist is one who talks about meditation but does not do the work. And so they were also labeled as doing all this intellectual thing at the end after she died. They did all this intellectual stuff and they didn't do the work as far as raising themselves up to spiritual levels. So also it goes back to also doing the work. So let's get the question and answers going. Okay. You first, brother.
What was the name of that movie you was talking about? Indians calling the white dude the devil.
Natural born killer.
That's Natural Born Killers, done by, what's my man's name? Oliver Stone. So, you know, that's the one also, too. What's that, brother?
Oh, now, I think when you was with Sister Afrikiti a couple of weeks ago, you did a little bit on the Hollywood Report. And you know, the last time you talked about Earth, Wind, and Fire and you know, who Maurice White was.
Yeah.
What about the same group, the Fifth Dimension? Because they sang that song, Age of Aquarius, and all that Jupiter aligned with Mars, and it seemed like they might have been on a frequency too back then.
Well, you know, the Age of Aquarius is especially to 60s people and anybody in their cult. That's common knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. You know, I don't know. They didn't have the success that Earth, Wind, and Fire did. You see what I'm saying? But the only thing I wanted to do is when I got the channel on Earth, Wind, and Fire, I just wanted to know, was their stuff spiritually inspired? And then they went into the channel on this particular person who was Hemmitt, who reincarnated and gave the music for Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the album covers was the stuff that also indicated that too. As well as they said Roy Ayers was one that did it, and he was from Egypt and Chaldea. Roy Ayers was one. We know Bob Marley was one. I didn't get the channel on him yet. We know Bob Marley was one. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But then again, a lot of the 70s music dealt with that particular stuff because at that time you didn't have a political platform like the 60s because they had neutralized all that. So they did a lot of things also too in the 70s music and stuff. But Earth, Wind, and Fire by far was one of the greatest ones and all, which was pleasing to me because I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. So when I heard this and all, it was all the more reason. And like I said, one of the best things to get is the CD box set, The Eternal Dance, which is almost 40-something songs, and there's everything they made, plus a book that gives you not only the history of Earth, Wind, and Fire, but it gives you every particular day that the songs were recorded. And it also gives you the picture of all the album covers, and as well as it's got almost 8 or 9 unreleased tracks that they put in there. You know how they go into these different interludes before each song? Well, they even had unreleased stuff that they recorded and didn't make and stuff. And it's just as good, they just couldn't fill up the albums with it. So the CD set and the box set. You can get the CD set and the cassette set of The Eternal Dance and all. So that's a good one also too. Because, you know, because they always gave music that was real up, and also spiritual and all that. And remember, like I said too, you need to try to find either the CD, we're going to either try to find the CD or the album of the last Maurice White recorded an album in 1985. A lot of people didn't know about it because you was out of Earth, Wind, and Fire by then, but he recorded one in 1985. And that particular album is real deal because he starts dealing with saying, do you believe in magic? And you can change your conditions and all on the second side. And the last album was talking about Africa. I will something for Africa. And he said, born in Africa, children of the sun, Lord, take your place as the chosen one. So all this is in the album and stuff, and it's one of the real spiritual albums. A lot of people didn't get tapped into the album. But Maurice White's 1987, he ain't got one album. But we know it's a long one. And when they came back in 1987 as a reunion, they went gold in a week. So you know, and they said if they were white people, they would be big as the Beatles. What's that stuff?
I wanted to speak on a couple of things.
Yeah.
I guess it might have been a month ago. Oprah Winfrey had this show where they were talking about putting people into trance and stuff. You know how they do hypnotize folks?
Yeah.
And they hypnotize these people, and they hypnotized this one white guy. Mm-hmm. And when the guy went to him and asked him what he saw, he was like, oh shit, it's real, it's real. And they were like, what do you see? He said, aliens. You have to tell the people, it's real, it's real. So, you know, well, they weren't expecting that, I don't think, you know.
Yeah.
In relation to Thunderdog.
Uh-huh.
And I had really, you know, he had to remind me, like, look, I helped you, you ain't told me. Right? But anyway, I needed some money. My husband, we broke, we needed some money, right? So we had an office set up. I lit my candles, I told Thunderdog, look, I need some money. The next day, my phone rang. And this guy, I do land use work, planning work, and zoning, that kind of thing. This guy just insisted that he wanted me to take his case. So I told him what my fee was, blah, blah, blah. He came right up, didn't make an appointment, nothing came over, dropped me $500. Every time I tried to get in touch with the brother to do his work, he didn't have time for me. To the day, I ain't heard from this man no more. I called him about 5 times. I was like, well, yo, when you get ready, I got the 5, you know.
Well, you know what? With Thunderdog, ever since...
It was like a gift.
That's right. With him, that's right. You're right. With him, I will get broke no more than a day or so. But when I'm broke, I got enough stuff that it don't really make a doggone difference. You know what I'm saying? Never flat out broke and hungry.
Yeah, right.
You see what I'm saying? And that's with that altar and all. For you people that want to build that altar, you remember, I'll tell you that after the thing is over. I've said it so many times on the tape. So that Thunderdog, you are right, is very good. What's that other thing?
One more thing. The class is Herbal Defense. We'll be teaching from the teachings of Dr. Johnny Moore and Marie Laveau.
Yeah, good.
Those are
So
the masters that
that's also with the crystalogics, right?
well, the whole thing, I mean, crystalogics is like from Atlantis.
Yeah, right. And you need to get into that.
We're dealing with
Because I
Marie
think,
Laveau and candles and stuff like that.
Right.
Most of the Marie
because
Laveau.
she has taken the works of Johnny Moore and also has put it into a teaching form. And also, too, that we got the channel that people need to really tap into Johnny Moore and stuff because he did know that particular science.
I transcribed a bunch of formulas from the
Yeah, and because they're saying you got to start dealing with things on that type and try to, what they say, take that bath and what?
Salmon seal and
Yeah, different things, but we'll get with that.
rosemary and basil or something.
Rosemary and basil once a week. This is some things to keep all this stuff off you because there's a lot of things going on. Like I said, when I went to New York, I met a woman that them white people up in Rochester, New York was putting psychic self-defense, putting psychic attack on this girl, and she was waking up with knife cuts. And her sister remembered me on the tape talking about the book Psychic Self-Defense, and she went to Sammy Weiser and bought it and sent it to her. And I met the sister in New York saying that book saved my life. Because she didn't know what was going on. You see what I'm saying? And they put all kinds of things on her because they wanted her out of the school system. And all that. Wanted her out of the school system and all. And it saved her life and all. So this is some things that also came down to do those things also. You see. Also now, what's that? What's that, brother?
I'm kind of new to this. Actually, when I first started hearing what you talked about, my baby, my mama, like you said, praise, thank you, Jesus. So
Yeah.
I was wondering, what kind of books could I read into that could teach me a little more about Osiris and I said Osiris when you talking about?
Well, that's it. All the Budge's books do all that. You know, you can get Osiris, Egyptian Resurrection. You can get that, but that is the mythology. But you're going to have to start reading those things from a scientific level. Other good books that deal with that, there's a real good one by Rudolf Steiner called Egyptian Myths and Mystery, where he deals with the metaphysical side of that particular drama. Rudolf Steiner, Egyptian Myths and Mysteries, and you can get all of those books at Black Media. Black Media also, too.
Pieces where there's prints and videos.
Yeah, also, too. What's that? What's that?
You mentioned the how powerful a woman's period is.
Right.
Right. Now, as you know, brother Delbert Blair, he's put some things out on the period. He talks about how originally women didn't have one, and like you
Well,
stand
see,
on
now,
your
he
head.
didn't have information from Dr. Loyola Africa.
Okay.
Just as he got the information about humans and man. He said the humans meant the animal man or whatever, non-man, and the man. I saw the book that he got that from called The Sky People, and what that was a book that was a spoof on black people in the 1950s where they tried to change it around. And because human comes from the God, if you trace it back, it comes from the God Who. And the God Who is the Sphinx. And the Sphinx alchemical breakdown, the Kabbalistic breakdown is the number 19, and the number 19 is also talking about melanin. The reason why I know that because when you take the Kabbalistic correspondence and you go back to the colors and they give you black, and they also give you in there, they give you the correspondence of carbon. You know what they're talking about, pure Akash. So Who, the God Who means the Sphinx, and the word Who man, human, comes from that. That's where the first thing comes from, because the God Who it's an English word, right? But it's an English word that symbolizes the Sphinx coming from ancient Britain. That's where it comes from, the word human. And that was, you know, the English language was a leftover void stuff from all over. But the ancient Britain, in ancient Britain used to be black people, remember, who built Stonehenge, talked about the God Who of the Sphinx. You see what I'm saying? Which is called Heru on the horizon, which is a chaos god. And remember, what's going to tell you that chaos is talking about the chaos sphere, which is not talking about a negative chaos, it's talking about the primal forces. And the God Who is a Britain term that comes from the ancient Britain, which the Stonehenge builders was black people, and that's where you get the word human from. They used to say the Who man, which they used to call themselves Who man. And they symbolized their Sphinx because remember at one time when the Sphinx was built, it was all one landmass. You see what I'm saying? All one landmass. So everybody was called Hu-Man, and it was, that particular part was left over. It was not a regular English word. It was left over through ancient, the white people adopted it from the ancient written language, and that's why it's important to not just rule out everything that's in English, because Jeremiah in the book of the beginning tell you that half the words came from Egypt out of England, and he traced them. So that particular part, what he said about the pyramid thing and all that particular part, we don't know where Laos Africa got that from. You see what I'm saying? We don't know where he got that from. But then again, on the other hand, too, I don't think he's qualified to speak on some stuff like that because he don't deal with Atlantis and Lemuria. See, he only goes back to doggone Egypt, and he's not an Egyptologist. So if you don't go all the way back, how the hell you gonna say what some things go when you don't even bear witness to beyond that, when man is God? You see what I'm saying? So the breakdown with a lot of scholarship is they bear witness, but they don't bear witness. They do not bear witness that man and woman is God, and that's where the confusion comes in. Where Manetho said it. Before Egypt and all that, we used to live as gods, already documented, you see. So I don't know where he gets stuff from, but they don't deal with stuff further back, you see, like that also too. Even if it was something that was later on, and still they can get through that doorway with it, you see. Any other questions? Yeah, what's that?
Do you think that has anything to do with the British character, Doctor Who?
Huh?
Doctor Who, you know, the
That's, yeah, you see a lot of stuff in the movies. Like Darth Vader comes from Darth off of the tree of melanin on the tree of life. Then they put him in black clothes. And they give James Earl Jones as a voice. Then they say he's the enemy from the Death Star. You know what the Death Star is? Sirius. The star of retribution and judgment, Sirius. You see what I'm saying? Which just means also purifying the earth. You see, you being transformed to a higher level, you must go through hell. You see, but that's two. What else? Anybody else? No other questions?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, what's that? Okay, I'll give you Doris. And then, what's that?
We were talking about 19,000 BC, a door closed up.
Yeah.
You said we're living on a dual timeline.
Supposedly, it's supposed to be what you see of the subterranean world was the remnants of that particular time zone or the leftover part of Atlantis, but not only was this leftover part of Atlantis, it's actually another time zone. You see what I'm saying? It's another time zone because we're not talking about really time. They just use that word. We're talking about dimensions. And that dimension is equated by time zones also too. You see what I'm saying? So we're talking about dimensions and levels of those particular parts also too. And they said that doorway was closed up 19,000 BC. Based on the channel. We get so much on the channel, but one thing I love about the channel is this. One thing I love about the channel is, not only does the channel say things, take for instance, they come and give Ginger C.W. Ledbetter, she don't know who the hell that is. So that's why I know it's right, because the things that they're giving to people, like the sister, she was totally Islamic, and the sister gave me things that was in melody. She gave me things this way, and it was totally, and it also corresponds with this, because we got to get through the actual lies too. You see what I'm saying? Also corresponds also with that too. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, excuse me, Father. Here's your question. No door is closed to the soul. And that's who you actually are. You're not your mind, you're not your body. No door is ever closed to you. When you tap into that, you can go anywhere you want to go. There's no door tap close to you. Only to you when you identify with the mind and the body.
That's it. Because what you're talking about is, like he's saying, you're not even just talking like he's saying, you're talking about cosmic consciousness. You're talking about pure soul. That's what we talk about getting to. And all right. So he is exactly right with that. He is exactly right to that. And that's why the whole thing about the illusionary, the soul just is. You see.
And the thing about the illusion, all you have actually throughout the universe, the inner universe, and the many other universes is consciousness. That's all you have. You only have one substance, one reality. And if you have only one reality and one substance, all you have is reality. And illusion is just misinterpretation of reality. So there's in actuality no illusion. It's just misinterpretations. You see, and so the idea is to uncover the veil, which is darkness, and darkness comes out of ignorance of the true self, which is light. And then there's something beyond light itself. It's where we're really trying to go. But
Yeah.
basically what I wanted to say.
Well, that shines right in with the question that I had, because on the one hand we're saying that this is an illusion, then on the other hand you were saying that this reality and the higher reality are merging. And so I'm saying, well, wait, is there two realities, just one? But this brother helped me
that
out
whole
there
thing,
just now.
that whole thing also goes back to you. See, when he's talking about the mind and he's talking about the physical body and the mind, that's what's given the actual logic that is a cheat. You see what I'm saying? So he's right. There is no difference. That's the same. Basically, in a nutshell, it's the same thing what they said on the mound. There is no difference.